Peter Maurer, the Planning Director. According to the rules of the county, the chair and vice chair are appointed at the first meeting in February. So we currently do not have a chair or vice chair. However, the code does allow the commission to appoint an interim chair to the remainder of the term, which would be until the first meeting in February. So with that, before we start the meeting, I guess as a part of the meeting, I'm not sure exactly procedurally how we go about doing this, but maybe it would be best for me to call the meeting to order and then ask if there is a nomination to select an interim chair.
Okay.
Is there so the meeting's called to order, and I would entertain a motion to.
Could we have some discussion on this?
Certainly.
Because it seems to me that the two senior members are, in my mind, are the ones that are in the running, but I don't know who wants to be chair and who doesn't want to be chair. And avoiding any Brown Act complications, there have been no conversations on this.
I think that I have spoken with the two senior members, and Mr. Looster had stated he is not interested in being the chair, and Mr.
I'd like to make a motion. I would nominate the very capable person on my left here to be the chair of the Planning Commission, interim chair for the moment.
And that can only happen if you can pronounce my last name.
Well, you're going to have to pronounce it for me. That's why I didn't try.
I'll second that.
Okay, I have a motion and a second. Is there any comments from the public on this? Seeing none, I'll call the question. Those in favor of appointing Lisa Mutrites as the interim chair for the Planning Commission, say aye.
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 All opposed? None. Motion carries 5-0. Lisa?
Do we need to appoint vice chair, or are we okay?
I think we're probably okay, unless you don't want to be here next meeting.
I should be here. You're going to be here?
Yes.
Okay. Okay. So the meeting's already been called to order. We need to do the swearing in of the planning commissioners for the newly appointed by the Board of Supervisors to represent districts 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5 with a term that shall expire on December 31st, 2018.
Before we do that, would you want to do this to the flag?
We should do the salute to the flag. We called to order and I missed that point. I'm sorry. Can we all stand and turn and salute to the flag, please? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. You going to take over, Diane?
Do we need to do roll call before? Okay. All right, so if I could have all of you please rise. Raise your right hand. You're going to repeat after me, and after I say I, you're going to state your name. So I do solemnly swear that I will support and defend the Constitution of the United States
That I will support and defend the Constitution of the United States
and the Constitution of the State of California
and the Constitution of the State of California
against all enemies, foreign and domestic.
against all enemies, foreign and domestic.
That I will bear true faith and allegiance
That I will bear true faith and allegiance
to the Constitution of the United States
to the Constitution of the United States
and the Constitution of the State of California.
and the Constitution of the State of California.
That I take this obligation freely,
That I take this obligation freely
without mental reservation
without mental reservation
or purpose of evasion,
or purpose of evasion,
and that I will well and faithfully discharge
and that I will well and faithfully discharge
the duties upon which I am about to enter.
the duties on which I am about to enter.
Thank you very much.
Are there going to be any agenda changes for today?
No changes, except for we would like to add one brief item, and that is a recognition of Mr. Ted Allred for for his 20 years of service on this planning commission. Ted, want to come up?
It's easier said than done.
This is a resolution proclamation by the Planning Commission, assuming that they approve this.
Peter, can you speak closer to me?
Okay, is that better?
Thank you.
This is a proclamation of the Planning Commission of the County of Calaveras recognizing Ted Allred for his 20 years of service on the Planning Commission. Whereas Ted Allred was first appointed to the Planning Commission in 1997 to serve District 1, and whereas Ted faithfully served the citizens of District 1 and the entire county during this time, serving as chair and vice chair for many of those years, and whereas volunteer service on the Planning Commission is a benefit to the community in that the meeting stipend in no way compensates for the many hours necessary to prepare for and participate in the public hearings. And whereas Ted intended to stay on the Planning Commission until a draft general plan was adopted, which was accomplished under Ted's watch during October 2016 with the recommendation to the Board of Supervisors of a project description draft general plan after 15 months of hearings, including special meetings held weekly during much of that time. And whereas Ted always provided thoughtful and insightful comments on and consideration of all items before the Commission, and his knowledge of the history of the county was invaluable. Now, therefore, be it resolved that the Planning Commission of the County of Calaveras does hereby extend its sincere appreciation of Ted Allred's 20 years of service to the citizens of the county, his professional expertise, and his courteous respect to all of those who testified before the Commission.
Thank you.
Motion?
Can we get a motion?
I move that we approve the resolution.
I'll second that.
Thank you. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? And I didn't ask for public comment and probably should have. If we okay? Would you like to make a public comment? Come on up, Colleen. Thank you.
Thank you.
Colleen Platt with My Valley Springs and the Calaveras Planning Coalition, and we also want to recognize and appreciate Ted Allred for his years of service. He's always been very respectful to the members of the public, and he's listened to everybody. His comments have sometimes been surprising, but always insightful.
Thank you. Does anybody else would like to make public comment? Come on up, George.
My name is George Fry. I've known Ted 39 years, and he's done an outstanding job in the community besides being on the Planning Commission. And I thank the Planning Commission for recognizing him today.
Thank you. Anybody else? Okay, Ted, I want to say thank you. You have been a mentor for me, sitting beside me the last couple of years.
Yeah.
I really, really appreciate you, and thank you for all you have done. You're amazing. 20 years is a long time to sit here.
Yeah. It's interesting to see all of you from this angle. It's been so long since I've looked in this direction. One of the first jobs that I was assigned when I came to work for the cement company back in the early 60s was to attend all Board of Supervisors and all Planning Commission meetings of the county on behalf of the company, and to bring back any information about what's going on that might be to our advantage or disadvantage. And so that was my first experience with the Planning Commission. And then I had 2 or 3 other experiences after that. I'm not sure whether this is exactly a commendation or a roast. The only difference between the two is who's lying to who.
Oh.
But I certainly appreciate the commendation from the board, and it's I'd like to give thanks to the people who have made this possible, but most of those are deceased. All of the previous boards of directors and boards of supervisors. So I can't very well do that. I would like to mention, though, that hopefully for the benefit of the new commissioners, that this is an opportunity if you take advantage of it. I didn't know was such an organization as the California Planning Commissioners Association of all the counties, all 57 of the 58 counties. One of them doesn't count. And that's not an oversight. San Francisco County didn't count because being a city and county, they fall in a different category. So anyway, I got joined up with them and had some interesting experiences with them, and then I became a director, and pretty soon I became the guy that was in charge for 26 counties, and I was thinking, what have I done? And suddenly the next year came along, and I had all 56 of the 50 or 57 of the 58 counties, so I was the president of the California County Planning Commissioners Association. Those are all the kind of benefits. You really learn something, because when you're sitting at the table with planning commissioners from all the counties, it's amazing how many solutions you can find to your own problems by looking around and finding out what you have in common with those people. So if you have an opportunity to become involved with those people, it's certainly worth doing. It was for me. So, yeah, I was first appointed by Lucy Thine when she was the supervisor for District 1, and that seems like yesterday, but I think we're all aware of the fact it wasn't. So other than that, I want to again thank the current commissioners and the current supervisors for the commendation, and particularly the staff have tolerated me now for 20 years. Don't laugh. And Annette has put up with a lot of extra duties that normally they don't have, like picking me up off the concrete outside when I tripped over my own walking stick. So again, I want to thank all of you for all you've done. Thank you. Am I relieved now?
You're almost relieved. We're going to reserve a chair for you right there up front. We hope you will continue to come over the next couple of years because you provide so much history to this Planning Commission, and we expect you to get up to the mic and help us out the next couple of years.
I hate to tell you this, but I had already planned that.
Thank you. So you're dismissed. You can have a seat. Thank you, Ted. Pardon me? Oh. Ted, we have to go to lunch early still?
Pardon?
Do we still have to go to lunch early?
As long as there's enough time to get through the line before the line closes at the senior center.
Okay. Okay. We can respect that.
He goes about between 11 and 11:30.
We sent him over there at 1 and they were closed a few times. Okay, so now we will go to public comment. The public may address the Planning Commission on land use issues not on the agenda. 5 minutes per person, 15 minutes per topic. The commission shall not take action on items presented under public comments. Is there any public comment today? When you go to the mic, please speak into the mic and state your name, please.
Yeah, hi, I'm Terry Weatherby. I'm the only structural engineer in 4 counties and the self-proclaimed mayor of Moke Hill. That's a thing thanks to the Calaveras Enterprise, because there's a self-proclaimed mayor of Mountain Ranch. I'm on the design review, the voluntary design review committee for McCallamy Hill. We were tasked about 8 or 10 years ago with coming up with design review guidelines, which we did, which you're going to hear a case later on. And I haven't had a chance to talk to staff on why we're here, but I believe we're here because that says planned development up there. A PD is a zoning that's put on most of the properties in McCallamy Hill, not just the historical district, but the Gateway and almost all of the properties. It's been a pain for 30 or 40 years. I hope that, I believe that Mr. Garamendi is going to try to get rid of the PD overlay. We've talked with planning staff, at least I've talked to them numerous times over the last 10 years. We have the design review guidelines. There's no need for the planned development for an empty lot to go before you guys. There's no need for a planned development in Moke Hill. We have the design review guidelines. It's outlived its usefulness. I appreciate your guys' time here, but I don't know of many other communities that have to work through this. It's been a pain, and as a structural engineer, I run into it in a lot of projects in Moke Hill. So hopefully you guys will be looking at that over the next couple months, and we can get rid of that PD once and for all. Thank you.
Thank you.
My name is Will Mosgrove. I'm a resident of McCallamy Hill. I've lived there a couple of years and also have a business on Center Street. And I've seen the elevation plans, and I'm in favor of this project moving forward. Thank you.
I'm sorry, we didn't hear your last sentence.
Will Mosgrove.
No, what was your last statement?
I'm in favor of Mary Jane's house moving forward.
Okay, thank you.
You're going to get another chance to talk. So good morning, Colleen Platt again with MyValleySprings.com and the Calaveras Planning Coalition. And we want to welcome all of the new and returning planning commissioners back to service for their community and their county, and we appreciate your service. I would like to bring up one issue that hopefully we could address before the end of the day, and that's how the public is to communicate with their planning commissioners. We've had problems in the past with the official county email address not reaching the planning commissioners reliably all the time. So in the past, the commissioners have been willing to give a private email address to the public so the public can reach their commissioners. So I was hoping we might be able to have that discussion before the end of the day so we can contact our new commissioners. Thank you very much. Reliably. Thank you.
Is there any further public comment? Okay. We can bring it back, and Colleen brought up a very good point. Many of us do use or have a personal email set up, and I'm hoping that all of you have an email that will be accessible to the public. Mine is lisapc3@gmail.com.
Mine is, this is all spelled out, Tim and Chris, and that's CHRIS, .Laddish, LADDISH, @gmail.com.
I will make one for the public. I don't have one right now, but I will make one for you. And I'll make sure you get it, Colleen.
I do have one. I generally get the emails when they're sent to the planning department, and Annette Silva sends them to me. But mine is kcw@caltel.com.
Does the staff just normally forward things to us, or?
Yes, if anything is sent to staff, addressed to the planning commission, we will forward it on to.
I think I just defer to staff then.
Okay.
It's not a secret, but I can just, I don't want to be inundated with everything. I've already got too many emails, but for now at least, let's just use staff. I may change my mind.
I would suggest to anyone using our personal emails that in the subject matter, make it clear it's planning commission business, because we don't usually open emails that come from people that we don't know, because we don't know what that's going to do with our computers. So make that recommendation.
I will tell you that we do not receive many emails to our personal emails. MyValleySprings.com on occasion will send an email, but typically when people go onto the planning department page, there is an email that they send that goes to all planning commissioners. Whether or not you're checking your county email box, Annette has been amazing about sending them to us to make sure that we do receive them. So if somebody is going to the planning department website page and you do hit send to the commissioners, Annette is very good about making sure we do receive it. So don't be intimidated or afraid to use the county site, because we do get those emails.
And I did get my computer hacked recently, so I'm a little leery about the whole process. I have anti-malware systems, and it just didn't work. So I would hope the county has a more advanced approach to it, and that's part of the reasoning behind my
With a
reluctance.
whole department that tries to make sure that doesn't happen. Tries to make sure it doesn't happen.
Okay, so we're going to go on to the consent agenda now and the approval of the minutes from December 22nd, 2016 Planning Commission meeting. Kind of a unique situation here because 4 of us were not here for that meeting. How do we want to handle that?
That's a good question. I don't know the answer to that.
I think we could ask the one person who was here
Where'd she go?
and on the committee, whether it looks good to you, and if so, I'd be willing to rely upon that.
Okay, there were a couple changes to the draft minutes. One was a typo, and I'll tell you what they were on page 2. Under E1, public hearings, 2016-071, conditional use permit for Anthony Benitez. There was a word missing on the 4th line. So it now reads, other proposed uses on the property include possible retail in the existing building and a new coffee drive-through hut in the existing parking area. The "in" was missing. Of more substance on page 6, under J, special hearing of the Administrative Hearing Board. Item number 2, the DeCoke appeal of code compliance citation. The minutes originally read that the appeal was withdrawn by the appellant. That was not correct. The citation was withdrawn by code enforcement because his appeal from the denial of lack of registration was granted. And so the minutes now correctly reflect what happened. And with those changes, I think they're fine.
Okay. Would you like to make a motion to approve the minutes?
I would make a motion to approve the minutes as amended.
Okay.
I'll second that motion.
Okay. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Passes 5-0. Okay, we'll now move on to public hearings. The first public hearing is going to be 20116-1134 PD for Mary Jane Ganocchio. And Gina, I'm assuming you're representing or presenting on that?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
Okay, so just a little bit of history. Terry Weatherby kind of already touched on it. The McCalmy Hill Community Plan called out for the creation of some design guidelines to address aesthetics in the designated historic district in order to maintain the historic character of the community of McCalmy Hill. The subject parcel happens to lie within the historic district. For a number of years, can't exactly state when the ordinance was approved. There was a PED that was applied to all of the parcels within the historic district for the purpose of making sure that even in the absence of actual design guidelines, that was the county's mechanism to ensure that some kind of consistency and compatibility in order to maintain that historic character was actually done. And so history throughout, we've always done a plan development review and approval by the Planning Commission for all development within the historic district. Subsequent to the adoption of the design guidelines, that was more or less step 1. We've got an actual step 2 that needs to happen that hasn't happened yet, and that is a new process that has to be developed, and and adopted into place into the code to kind of take the place of the traditional PD permitting process as we're about to go through now. Staff has agreed with, with the community members of McCollum Hill and all of those that were originally involved with the creation of those guidelines, that's definitely something that everyone is in favor of. So no one disputes that. But until we come up with a new process, unfortunately, we still have this pesky PD permitting process that we have to deal with, but it's okay for the meantime, but we are, I think, as Peter and I discussed yesterday, that is one of the things that's kind of on our to-do list and needs to be taken care of, which I think he's going to speak to you a little bit later on. But anyway, since
Gina,
we...
excuse me, before we get into the specifics of this particular project, I just want to make clear that within the last couple of weeks, before I was appointed to the Planning Commission, the proponent of the project and one of her supporters did speak to me at a public reception about the project, but only very generally, of course favorably,
Okay.
but generally. And I wanted to make that public.
Thank you.
In case that might disqualify me or in any way affect this.
It's just good to disclose that at some point in time during the hearing. Thank you.
So what we're considering today is the architectural design review of a proposed single-family residence in the historic district of McCollum Hill. You've got in your packet not only a staff report outlining all of the analysis and findings, but you should have some renderings of elevations and some nice pictures of the site map, as well as parcel configuration and things. So moving on with that, again, it's a single-family residence. The actual plans, the applicant landowner hired an architect, Michelle Plotnick, and they commenced a courtesy review with the McCollum Hill Historic Society, or History Society. And a lot of the members on that unofficial kind of committee were actually committee members that drafted the original guidelines. And again, they're not an official committee, but they have volunteered their services to the county until a better process is in place, just to help assist us with the actual review of these of the plans that are proposed in conformance with the guidelines. They consist of people that have not only historic knowledge of the community, but they actually have they've got architects on the committee, as well as archaeologists, cultural resource specialists. So these are people that have some kind of expertise in the whole field, which we found to be very helpful. And again, I think that's something that we can include in some changes for the future process. But in the meantime, they volunteered their time and sat down with the architect and the landowner. They talked about the guidelines that are in place, and they actually came up with what we all feel is it's a very nice design that will complement the community. It seems to fit in very well with the other homes in the community, using like materials, size-wise, streetscape. Everything that they proposed seems to really fit in with the whole community of McCollum Hill. So with that, you've got all of your design, everything in the packet that illustrates what the building is going to look like. You have actually in your packet as late correspondence, we did get a letter from a community member in support of the PD and the construction of Mary Jane's single-family residence. In addition, we actually made some changes to the resolution. So the amendments that we actually made to the resolution were more or less clarification. And the clarification came about with when it was brought to staff's attention that there are specific performance standards within the PD combining zone that really kind of lay out additional criteria that maybe don't necessarily apply to single-family residents, such as landscaping, refuse storage, screening, signage, mechanical rooftop devices, access, which requires paved parking and things. All of those kinds of performance standards are really relative to commercial and industrial development, as they are called out specifically within the base zone of those zonings, specifically calling out requirements for landscaping, requirements for all of these other things. If you look at the residential performance standards in the base zone, you won't find any of this reference to any of the things that, most of the things that you would find in the commercial or the industrial performance standards. So with that, we kind of just made a general statement that we thought we maybe need to, clarify a little bit additionally, and that the performance standards we felt are being made, but only those that are applicable to the residential use and not necessarily to uses, because this is very general. It doesn't normally cover residential in any other portion of the county. If you look at the entire county as a whole, McCollum Hill is the only community that has put a PD on residential zoning for the purpose of design review. All other PD references in the county applied to residential zoning is for density transfer. So McCollum Hill really is unique. But in fact, we don't wish to actually apply all of the commercial standards necessarily to residential development. So given that, I just have some quick slides, most of which you've actually got already in your packet. It might be a little bit easier to see. I apologize for not giving you full-size plans. We were just trying to keep costs down to a minimum. So here's a site plan, exactly the same thing as you have in your packet, illustrating a single-family residence with a detached garage. Single-family residence will be entered off of Main Street. The detached garage will be entered off of the rear lot side, actually off of, what is that called? Clark, thank you. I almost called it Center, and I knew that was wrong. Here again, here's your house elevations. It was designed by an architect. All of the details were gone through by the History Society, in addition to reviewed by staff against the guidelines and found to be compatible and consistent with all of the criteria. Here's the lower elevation floor plan, which doesn't really make any difference to us, but it's just kind of nice to show how everything is going to be laid out. And that this really is a modest-sized home. They did have some challenges in respect to the lot itself, in that it's a very long and narrow L-shaped lot. And when you start looking at where all the setbacks lie on the lot, they came into some design or layout issues on the back side when they were trying to figure out where to put the garage. But through the PD process and the PD combining zone, you have the ability to make a finding of consistency, which basically allows what would be equivalent to a variance. We're not using the word variance, we're actually using the word reduced setback, because it's not exactly the same as a variance in that we don't need to make specific variance findings. But we have found still the compatibility that we were looking for in that historic community. So here is the garage elevation. Again, a very modest two-car garage is proposed. In respect to the setbacks for the garage, here's the lot as it lays out. So you have your front setback, which is off of Main Street. Opposite of your front is always your rear. In this case, it's actually adjacent to a street as well, so you could call it indeed a front. So there's 20 feet that is required from both front and rear setbacks. Opposite of the front, which is off of Clark, is the rear. And that's where we're kind of coming into some issues, is that normally a rear setback is 20 feet. But once you incorporate a 20-foot setback from both the front and the rear line where the proposed garage is going to be placed, you basically have no available spot to put anything at all. So with the fact that the church has plenty of room, it's set back further up on the lot, if you can see here. Even though that is a rear lot for the church, we have determined that it is consistent and compatible with the neighborhood to call that line, that lot line, a side rather than a rear, and we have made findings to allow a 5-foot setback rather than a 20-foot setback, which would eliminate the possibility of placing a garage in that location. So I suppose if you need to, we can have a further discussion about the setback, but I think you'll find there's findings in the resolution that would approve that. So based on what we've seen thus far, staff is in full support of the approval of the PD to allow Mary Jane to go ahead and build her house as proposed in the site plan.
Okay, thank you,
Anything
Jane.
else?
The correspondence in our package, the only thing that we have for correspondence is the McQualmie Hill Design Review Committee. And the recommendation is that McQualmie Hill Design Review Committee believes that the proposed dwelling for Mary Jane Pinocchio, and I hope I say that right, meets the McQualmie Hill Design Review guidelines, and it will be a strong contributing element to the historic district. And now I believe we have representatives here to present. No?
I'm Michelle Plotnick. I'm the architect, and I'm really just here to answer questions. I think Gina pretty much covered everything.
Okay, was there anybody here to speak and on behalf or represent the project? No? Okay.
Well, I'm, like I said, I'm here to represent the project, but I don't have any intention to make a presentation in addition to what you have, unless you have some specific questions
Okay,
for
Just
me.
to make the,
Yeah.
oh, I'm
Go
sorry.
ahead, I was going to ask if
Yes.
the commissioners had questions.
To make the record complete, there is one answer in the land use application that there would be no flammables on the property, and I noticed, of course, there's a propane tank on the property, so I assume you'd like to acknowledge that there'll be a propane tank and it'll be used for consuming propane on the premises.
There will be other flammables on the property. I think that the answer was that there would be no flammables other than those that would be typical for a residential
Oh.
use. Yeah,
Thank you.
nothing special.
Do any of the other commissioners have questions?
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, we'll go to public comment now. If anybody has any public comment they would like to make on this item.
I'm Terry Weatherby. I had to recuse myself from the design review guidelines because I was a structural engineer on the project, but I live in McCallamy Hill, and I've worked with Michelle Plotnick for 20 years. I've known Mary Jane for at least that long, too, and they're both, it's a great design, it's a great addition to the community. As I mentioned, I have some issues with the PD, that we're even sitting here talking about. Such a wonderful project and a great design is a bummer, but I'm fully in support of the project, of course, as most of downtown is in support of the project.
Thank you. Okay, is anybody else? Okay, there we go.
Will Mosgrove from McCulmy Hill. I apologize for speaking out of turn before, but I'm a neighbor of Mary Jane's, live in McCulmy Hill, have a business in McCulmy Hill, and I support the project as well.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Any other public comment?
Good morning, Commissioners. I'm George Fry. I agree that it's ludicrous to have this under PD. I saw that Mary Jane had to pay $3,500 to do this too. I hope that the planning department takes care of the PD thing and that doesn't happen. I understand the intent of it because it is a historic community, and you want to keep it historic. But I just think it didn't need to be like that. And Mary Jane could have been saved the bigger portion of $3,500. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, any further comments or presentations that anybody wants to make? Okay, well then we'll close and bring it back to the commissioners. Would you like to start, Kelly?
I don't have any problem with this project. I think it's fine.
I don't have any problems. I think it's excellent.
Certainly sounds great. I don't see any opposition from neighbors, is that right?
Yeah.
Especially on the 5-foot setback. Be great.
I think this is a great example of a community working together to come up with a fine product that will be there in McCullough Hill and in embellishing District 2 for decades and decades to come, and I think it's great.
Okay. Sorry. I think Gina's going to prepare. I also feel the same way as all of you, so we're good there. And I think Gina's going to prepare to read the
Recommendation, right?
Yes, please.
Staff recommends the Planning Commission pass a motion to sign Resolution 2017-004 approving 2016-1134 plan development, approving the design of a single-family residence and detached garage in the historic district of McCallum Hill upon findings included herein as amended.
Thank you. Anybody like to make a motion to?
Well, I'm District 2, so I would make the motion that we approve this.
Great. A second?
I'll second.
Okay, thank you. Any more discussion by the commissioners? Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you. Great project. Good work.
Thank you. I want to offer to work on whatever process is going to replace this, as have someone who's seen it from both sides. It definitely needs a little work. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Okay. We're moving along quickly here. The next, whoops.
Sorry, not whoops you, whoops me.
Okay, I'm like, whoops. Okay, I'm learning this, so you guys not do that. Okay, the next public hearing will be 2016-1122, appeal of planning director's denial of commercial cannabis cultivation registration application 2016-938. Yeah, I'm reading it on here. You see me? It works. You sent it last night, I didn't get it. And thank you. Are you ready?
Yes, I believe I'm ready.
All right, let's do it.
Right on. My name is Paul Groh, and I'm here to present appeal number 2016-1122.
And you're going to speak into the mic so that we can all hear you loud and clear. Thank you very much.
Okay. My name is Paul Groh, and I'm here to present appeal number 2016-1122. And this is an appeal of the planning director's denial of a commercial cannabis registration for Ms. Van Aldon. And I believe late yesterday afternoon, we received in our office a request for a continuance of this project. And I would like to, I don't know if you would like me to read that letter into the record?
That'd be great, thank you.
Is that what you would like?
Yes,
Very good.
please.
Let me find it here. Okay. This letter is dated January 9th, 2017. It says, Dear Planning Directors Commission, This is a motion to request a continuance on my 2016-1122 appeal to the Planning Director's denial of commercial cannabis cultivation application 2016-938 for assessor's parcel number 036-001-032 to February 23rd, 2017, due to the inability to retain counsel for the hearing dated January 12th, 2017. Your consideration and cooperation in this matter are greatly appreciated. Sincerely, Van Oudong.
Thank you. Okay, so at this point, the commissioners will need to decide if they want to allow the continuance to go forward. I would like to note that we have continued this once before. So if we want to start with Commissioner Wooster down there, we can work our way around and get some input here.
Well, we probably want to hear from the public on this, public comment on this.
Okay. Can we get public comment, please, if there's any, on the continuance only?
Hello, my name is Barb Reynolds, and I'm a neighboring property owner. And this is the second time that I've come. I live in Sacramento County to hear this, and I would urge you not to grant a continuance. I think if you look over the information, it's pretty clear that this is not a cannabis grower that you would like to reverse their denial. So I urge you to go forward today and look over the information, because I don't think that you'll want to be granting this person their application. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there any other public comment? Is Mr. Grove, should we check to see if he's here and has any comments?
For the continuance, probably not.
Okay, then we'll bring it back to the commission for discussion.
I'm not in favor of granting a continuance.
I am also not in favor of granting the continuance.
Well, I see there's two applicants, Mr. Van Dong and Reno Lowe. And I gather, is either one of them here today? I mean, the only thing I see is this last-minute letter.
Registrant applicant, Reno Lowe, representing Senko Management, is the landowner. But the registration application is in the name of Mr. Dwellin.
I mean, normally,
as far as I know, neither of them are here.
I mean, normally if someone needs an attorney in court, they get the continuance. But this is, I mean, they have to be there to ask for the continuance, and if they're not here, I don't see any reason to grant it, especially since it was, a previous continuance was given to them.
And this was the same rationale that was given 2 months ago to continue it, or months ago to continue it.
I see no.
Recommend that we hold the hearing today, just because
Yeah, I
there's
would.
plenty of opportunity to find counsel.
I'd want to hear it today.
Could you please move your mics closer to the...
At the time of the previous continuance, did we just say continuance granted, or did we say this is going to move forward?
To the best of my knowledge, it was a simple continuance to this date, today.
I think the part of the grounds for granting it without much discussion is that harvest had already happened as well. So.
Well, the harvest has already happened quite a ways before.
Right.
I think with the hearing being set, and people obviously can be coming from a significant distance away to be at the hearing and make up public comments and this sort of thing, I think the commission would certainly be owed that the request be made before the day or evening before the hearing, and so I agree that under these circumstances, the continuance should not be granted.
Okay. So we will need a motion to to continue the hearing and not allow the continuance?
I make a motion to deny the request for continuance and to continue with the hearing today.
Okay,
I'd second that.
all right, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, so we will go forward with the hearing today.
Very good. Let us proceed. Again, this is appeal number 2016-1122. This is an appeal by Van Al Dong of the planning director's denial of their commercial cannabis registration. Project description, appeal of the planning director's denial of commercial cannabis registration. The registration was denied for the following 3 reasons. First of all, the applicant was unable to produce evidence that no later than May 10th, 2016, cultivation and/or grading commensurate with the area proposed to be cultivated had occurred on the site. Second reason was grading or earth moving for the purpose of establishing or expanding a commercial cannabis site occurred after May 10th, 2016. And our final reason was the application for registration contained false or misleading information. Just to orient ourselves, this project is located in District 2. It is located at 5752 Lucky Gem Mine Road. As you look at the image on the screen, that is the big purple blob in the middle of the image. Lucky Gem Mine Road intersects Mountain Ranch Road. And if the screen were a little wider to the upper right, you would see the community of Mountain Ranch about 2.5 miles from the intersection of Lucky Gem Mine Road and Mountain Ranch Road. Just to give you a little bit of an overview on this project before I get too far into this. I think that's the image I want on the screen right there. On July 10th, 2015, Cinco Management acquired this parcel. On July 10th, same day, Ms. Duong executed a lease with the parcel owner, Cinco Management. July 16th, just 6 days later, there was evidently some grading work done on this site. In the file, I found a bill from McClure Excavating to Ms. Duong for 46 hours of work leveling for 200-gallon pots and soil delivery out on this parcel. A grading permit for that work I was unable to find on the county records. When I sat down to look for evidence of any grading work occurring on that date, I went to the aerial photo. The June 9th aerial photo you see up there on the right is a good example. In taking a good close look at that, I didn't see any evidence of any grading taking place on this site prior to June 9th out there. In any case, any of the type of marks you might expect to find on the landscape consistent with 46 hours of work out on that project. So, why that receipt, that bill was actually in our file, I am not certain, but I wanted to include that in the public record.
Is it proper to ask questions now of staff?
Sure, then just clarification on the statement that was just made. If there's,
Yeah.
you might hold your comments in general.
Oh, sure.
The presentation, but
Sure.
if there's something that was just said, you need clarification on it.
I mean, what the little white patch that shows on the aerial photo, I mean, it looks like some sort of grading.
This photo here was taken on June 9th, obviously, and this is a post-Butte fire photograph. What you see up there is basically a site where mitigation work had occurred after the Butte Mountain fire. The driveway went up. There used to be a single-family residence on this site. So what you're seeing there is a a site where mitigated work was done,
Mitigate,
mitigation
like
work was done
removing-
after.
removing
Right,
the-
right, removing debris from the fire, the placing of erosion control and that sort of thing. Let's see here. Moving on. On June 28th, 2016, the applicant, Van Aldong, filed for a commercial cannabis cultivation registration, okay? And they were granted a mixed-like registration for 22,000 square feet of cultivation area. Included in that application is the plot plan you see on the left side of the screen up there. And if we take a look at that, it's a good representation of the parcel you see on the right. The driveway leads up to a small round area you see in the middle there. And I believe on the plan it's labeled as the house, the home site or the house site. To the left and above it, you'll see another large blob, and that is labeled the grow site. That is their proposed cultivation area for this project. So that is where we expected, when we move a little further into this project, to find our cultivation occurring. You'll notice there's plenty of room from, thank you. There's plenty of room from the edges, the boundaries of this grow site to the property lines. I believe that one right there said it was 400 feet to the left, 380 to the right, and 700 feet up here. So they anticipated having plenty of room to develop the site without any conflict with setbacks. So with that as a background, I'd like to go ahead and move into our reasons for denial. Our first reason for denial was this project failed to meet the requirements of Section 1795, 165, and 3. And let me see here. I think I may want to go back the other way. Yep. I'm going way the wrong way here. What did I do?
Backspace, I can't see. Is there a backspace?
Oh, there we go, back. There we
Oh, not anymore.
go. Sorry about that, folks.
I'll start over again.
There we go. So, okay. Our first reason for denial of this project. Failure to meet the requirements of 1795, 165, and 3. And I'd like to read that to you. The registrant must provide evidence satisfactory to the planning director that no later than May 10th, 2016, he or she has taken demonstrable steps toward the development of a commercial medical cannabis cultivation site on the parcel as demonstrated by criteria described in either A or B. A reads, date stamp photographic evidence of grading and or earth moving commensurate with the area proposed to be cultivated. And B reads, date stamped photographic evidence of cultivation commensurate with the area proposed to be cultivated. In the application, we were provided 7 screenshots. The 2 you see up there in front of you are typical of the 7. In both of these cases, we have a fairly level pad surface, ground. Standing on the ground on the right, you will see there are clusters of small growing cannabis plants. The other things we see are large soil-filled pots like you see on the left. I think in one of the images, I don't have it up here, but I saw about 20 of those. I counted out 20 of those on one of the images. Typical in both types of images, you will find the screen fencing right here, screen fencing. And that's pretty typical of what we see in all 7 screenshots. This one also showed a service, electrical, pole-mounted electrical service here, some trees in line
I've noticed on those trees look like pine trees or evergreen type trees. And from the other pictures that you have, aerial photographs after the Butte fire, do you see any evergreen trees
Well,
still existing?
the site is pretty well burned over, in my opinion. And that is exactly what we did. We take this photographic evidence that's submitted with the application, and we compare it to what we see on our aerial photographs. Let's see here. Let this thing go. There we go. So, when I go to this aerial image taken May 31st, 2016, I went and I started looking for anything that might be compatible with the images that the applicant submitted. So when I looked closely here, I didn't see any evidence on this pad right here or elsewhere along the edges of the driveway that led up to the pad that there was any evidence of the soil-filled pots, none of the screening that we see in the images that the registrant submitted, no small growing plants or anything of that nature. So what we find is that there's a lot of inconsistencies between the aerial imagery and the images that were submitted by the registrant to comply with the ordinance. So because of the inconsistencies in the images, the dates that they were taken, this is taken May 31st. The images that the registrant submitted were taken May 7th. We would expect to see those pots and things out there. Because of the inconsistencies and their corresponding dates, we didn't find sufficient evidence here to indicate that cultivation or grading of a 22,000 square foot grow area had occurred out on this site. And that was the reason for the denial there. I'd like to move on to the second cause for denial here. Let me see here. That's what I did.
If you want to go back in,
Okay. There we go. All right. There we go, that's fine. Okay. Our second reason for denial on this project is that it fails to meet the requirements of section 1795, 165, and 7. And I'd like to go ahead and read that for you. It reads as follows. As of May 10th, 2016, all grading and earth moving in the portion of the parcel to be used for cultivation shall have been completed other than that grading necessary for proportional adjustment to the cultivation area to comply with the setback requirements of this chapter. A registrant seeking to conduct grading for this purpose beyond May 10th, 2016 must provide the planning department with a copy of a current grading permit for this proportional adjustment at the time of submitting his or her application for registration. No additional grading or earth moving for the purpose of establishing or expanding any commercial cannabis cultivation site shall be permitted after May 10th, 2016. As I said before, on the plot plan you can see this area located right here was the area designated by the applicant as their cultivation area, their grow site. When we look at the aerial photography of June 9, 2016, that grow site should be right here, to the left of the home site, right in this area right here. So we can tell as of June 9th, this area here had not been developed. We move on to aerial imagery that was taken in August, September of 2016. And once we get there, we see that what has appeared on this site is approximately 100,000 square feet of grading, additional grading beyond that original 5,000 square foot pad we see in the previous photograph. Sitting within this approximately 100,000 square feet of graded area, we find approximately 17,000 square feet of cannabis cultivation. So we can tell there was obviously grading that occurred here beyond the May 10th deadline. In addition to the aerial imagery, let's see here.
Before you move on, Paul,
Yeah.
I don't see where it's 100,000 square feet. I mean, I certainly see additional grading, and I see the violation in that respect.
Actually, I went and measured all of this area, left that out, and then I went in and measured this area back in here. This is all additional grading.
I see.
Previously, we just had the driveway coming up, and we had this small 5,000 square foot pad, and it existed right in this area right here. So I went ahead and I included all of this back here. There's some on the side in here, goes back in there. Actually, quite a bit of additional grading out on this parcel. Beyond what we see in these aerial images, on July 20th, there was a service request made at Public Works Department, a complaint about illegal grading on this site. So that came from the public. Yes, I'd be happy to. And I'll repeat that. In addition to the aerial imagery we see on the right here in front of us, there was on July 20th a service report filed with Public Works Department complaining of illegal grading on this site. So someone evidently heard or observed activity on the site on July 20th. So because of what we see on the aerial imagery and based upon the service report, we certainly believe that grading and or earth moving occurred on the site after May 10th and fails to meet the requirements of section 1795, 165, and 7. I'd like to move on to the final cause for denial here. And that is this. Failure to meet requirements of section 1795, 170A4. And I'd like to read that to you. That reads as follows. Registration of a medical cannabis cultivation site pursuant to this chapter may be invalidated by the planning director for any of the following reasons. Application for registration contains false or misleading information. These screenshots were submitted with the application, okay? They show planters arranged for cannabis cultivation on this parcel. When we went and compared it to the aerial imagery that was available, we saw nothing of this nature on the parcel. Certainly not within their proposed cultivation area, which hadn't been developed at that time, May 7th. And we also didn't see that on the existing pad right there. It was to the registrant's advantage to have us believe that cultivation had occurred on the parcel prior to May 10th. So we believe that the registrant failed to meet the requirements of 1795-170A4. Those are our three reasons for denial of this project. Are there any questions from the board?
Yes.
Yes, sir.
We know there was grading on this site in 2015 because of the McClure bill, correct?
Not necessarily. We know there was a bill, but we don't know that there was grading. There was no permit given out for grading on the site. And actually, there was nothing when I looked at this that would lead me to believe that there had been previous grading out here. I wish I could enlarge that, but this whole, if I looked around the site, pretty much this whole site uniformly looks like vegetation that's been burned over. I don't see any scars on that parcel. So that bill, I really can't explain, and I really wish the registrant was here to address that. I can't explain it.
Well, it seems to have the same address on the bill, as best I can make it out.
Yes, it does.
And the staff report suggests that after his work, there was a 5,000 square foot pad on the property.
The 5,000 square foot pad is what we see after the Butte fire and in our aerial imagery. Okay.
You get
Now, this area right here previously contained a single-family home prior to the burn. So again, and I'm assuming this is a mitigated pad. It's been cleaned off post Butte fire burn and leveled out, soil treated, erosion control placed. But that is that's a post-burn image.
So whether it was done for a home site or to clear it out after the fire or as preparation for a grow, it's nowhere near what it takes to supply ground for 22,000 square feet
No,
of canopy.
sir, that is not 22,000 square feet, not at all. That's 5,000 square feet on that pad. And again, it's in the wrong location. If we look over here again at their plot plan, you'll see that 5,000 square feet right there is basically their house site, what they show right there. Their grow area, their proposed cultivation area is this big bubble right here off to the left.
Now, the aerials of May 31 and June 9th, did the applicant submit them or did staff come up with them?
Those are from our database at the planning
Okay,
department.
so what evidence did the applicant submit of any grading or earth moving?
They did not submit any evidence of grading. Right, that's a good question. No, there was no evidence of grading. However, I saw that receipt in the file, and I felt it was important to present that, to disclose that. And I don't have an explanation for it, and that again is why I would be hopeful that the registrant was actually here to explain that. Looking over this parcel, I didn't see any evidence of grading.
Do we have any information as to where those photographs that the applicant did submit that show the pots and the electrical pole and the fencing, where those were actually taken?
No, sir. I can't tell you where they were taken. I certainly can't tell you where they were taken.
So, and where is there any evidence of any cultivation commensurate with the area proposed to be cultivated? In other words, like 22,000 square feet?
I don't see it in the aerial imagery. When we double check it on the aerial imagery, I don't see anything that is commensurate with a 22,000 square foot site.
And you're talking about before the May 10th?
Right.
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Because
Yes,
we see cultivation after.
yeah, after, right. But prior to May 10th, I mean, this photo, this aerial image here is taken June 9th. The cultivation area has not been developed here, okay? And again, in the June 9th aerial, just taken a month, 10 days after the May 31st aerial, that parcel, that pad right there, is not showing signs of the pots, of the small cannabis plants, of the screening, or anything of that nature.
Okay, now the aerial taken in August and September,
Yes, sir.
it does show plants growing in what appears to be a newly graded area, correct?
Yes, sir.
But that newly graded area where the plants are growing, that's not 100,000 square feet, is it?
No, sir. The area within the cultivation area right here is approximately 17,000 square feet, okay? And that is cultivation we don't see on the previous aerial images. The 100,000 square feet, again, was going to the outside of these boundaries where we see grading occurring. If we were to work our way around and measure all of that, that's what was measured as the 100,000, approximately 100,000 square feet.
Okay, but if they graded additional ground, not for the purpose of establishing or expanding the cultivation site, but for some other purpose, that really doesn't count for purposes of the ordinance, does it? All it counts is what they graded for the purpose of putting plants on it.
That is correct. That is
So
correct.
what is the acreage there that they additionally graded, which they weren't supposed to, for the purpose of putting these plants on? It's not 100,000, it's something less. Do you know how much it is?
I think he's referring to the 17,000.
There's 17,000 square feet of canopy, but there's other grading associated with
Right.
that. You know, there's probably cut and fill below that canopy. It's hard to know exactly, but it certainly was grading done after May 10th for the purpose of cultivation.
Yeah, my question is
And
going
at
to
least 17,000 square feet.
My question is going to be, what's our best estimate as to what that is? Because in the resolution has the 100,000 square foot number. But to me, grading that was done not for the purpose of cultivating doesn't count. Reading the ordinance.
I understand that, and I approximately of new grading, I understand what you're saying there, and we would be happy to amend the resolution to reflect that.
Okay, that's all the questions I have.
Okay. I'm good right now.
I have no questions.
No question.
Okay. Then if we're done with your presentation, I just want to make absolutely sure that there is no representative here or the appellant. Okay.
Madam Chairperson, there was one letter sent in, some correspondence. I believe I included that in your staff
I
report.
do have that in my packet.
Would you like that read into the record?
I believe Mrs. Pergos, no, it's not you. Okay, so we have a separate letter of correspondence here that you, if you'd like to read it into the record, you're welcome to do so.
I'd be glad to do that.
Okay, but I'm going to ask you hugely, and you're going to hate me. You are a whisperer, and we need you to be loud. We
No,
want to
please.
hear what you have to say. So, if you need to take the mic off of it and hold it to your mouth, it would be
this is very
greatly
odd, because I was
appreciated.
here about a month ago, and I was not having any of these issues, but I'd be happy to be a little more direct.
That's so much better now
Hey, no
that
problem.
everybody in the public
You know-
can hear you.
I apologize to everybody, and I am not shy about being corrected, so I appreciate that. Thank
Thank
you very
you.
much, okay?
Okay.
All right, let's read the letter into the record here. This letter is dated December 4th, 2016. It's addressed to myself, Mr. Paul Groh, Calaveras County Planning Department, 891 Mountain Ranch Road, San Andreas, California, 95249. And it begins, Dear Mr. Groh, I really appreciate speaking with you regarding our concern regarding the 2016-1122 appeal of planning director's denial of commercial cannabis cultivation registration application 2016 938 for APN 036-001-032. We strongly urge that the Calaveras County Planning Commission deny Van Ao Dong's appeal. Our property would be negatively impacted because there is a landlocked easement that allows the applicant to cross our property to access her property. We are opposed to having machinery, vehicles, and random workers using our easement for commercial purposes. More importantly, we are opposed to the project because our elderly neighbors who live on Lucky Jim Mine Road would also oppose strangers, noise, machinery, and commercial vehicles continually going up and down the road. This peaceful, private setting should be respected and preserved. Thank you for your time and for submitting this letter for the Commission's consideration during the public hearing scheduled on December 8th, 2016 at 9 a.m. And it's signed Tom and Soroya Fragosi.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, so we're going to take it to public comment now. Is there anybody in the public that would like to speak to this agenda?
Hi, my name is Barbara Reynolds, and I'm the neighboring property owner at 5808 Lucky Jim Mine Road. If you notice here, my property's the one to the left. On June 5th, a man who identified himself as Hugo called me. He got my number from one of the other neighboring properties, and I agreed to meet with him to show him our mutual property line, because I know where the pins are on my property. I met with him in the afternoon that day. We walked through my property to the back corner and over to the mutual pin, where the corner would be on the north, right, left-hand side. Okay. Over here. So we started here at my property and went down this way, came up to the edge, came over through the vegetation to this corner, and then we came back and we walked up this way all the way to this area here. On that day, there was no cannabis growing on this property, and none of the additional grading had been done on that day. On that day, on June 5th, the only grading that had been done was done by the cleanup crews for the Butte fire. And so what you see there is grading. That's the only grading that has been done at that time. I've owned that property for about 10 years, but my friend sold me that property, my property, and he was the one. My friend actually owned this property for more than 30 years and was foreclosed, and they had to move off of the property. So it sat for over a year with nobody buying it. And so the grading permit that is in the file from 2015, there was no grading done on that property at that time. I think that's a fictitious receipt that you have, because when he first purchased the property, we didn't see him at all. We didn't. There was nothing being done. In the application, there's a rental agreement. The house sat on the market for a year because it was in such bad condition that no one would move into it. Really, no one wanted to buy it at the price that it was offered. So I think that I had to laugh when I read that rental agreement because of the condition that I knew the house was in, and no one was living in it that I could tell up until that point. After the fire, we didn't see anybody doing anything on that property at all. The cleanup crews came to our property and all the other properties on Lucky Jim Mine at the beginning of the cleanup time, and we worried that that property would not be cleaned up. it was one of the very last properties to be cleaned up. And so I can tell you that I think most of what he gave you as information is completely false. In respect to the grading that was done in the picture that shows the additional grading, I believe that all the grading that's been done is for the purpose of cannabis grow. They had a trailer up there this summer, or a motorhome that was where they were living, whoever was there. I don't think that they're planning to build. I think they were just planning to grow cannabis on the property. So on June 5th, there was, as the show from June 9th, there was none of this had started before that time on June 5th. And I spent hours with this man on that day, and it was a man. I don't know who Van is. She wasn't there. And I spent hours with him, and at that time I was finding out about the emergency ordinance, and we had a brief conversation about it, in which time he told me that he was planning to build a house with his uncle. And when I mentioned what was going on, that you needed to register for cannabis grow, he started thinking that I was going to do that, which I have no intentions of doing. And I asked him, well, are you going to? And he said at that time, no. So he wasn't honest with me at that time. And then in July, I was back, and that's when I saw that there had been grading done. And I went to find out if he had registered. And when I asked at the planning department, they didn't have his application. I think that was probably because they were so overwhelmed they hadn't registered everyone yet. So then I did go over to the Public Works and find out if they had a grading permit, and they didn't. So I was the person who did that. So I urge you to continue with the denial of this property, because of all of the false information that this person has submitted to you. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you for coming. Helps us.
If you have any other questions about it, I'd be happy to answer those too.
I have a question for you
Sure.
real quick. You stated that you met with him on July...
June 5th.
June 5th, I'm sorry.
June 5th.
And then you came back in July. So during that time, in that month's time, you were not back there?
No, I live in Orangevale and
That's my
Sacramento.
other question. So you don't live there, so technically you can't tell us that nobody was living there because you are not there all the time, correct?
I'm not there all the time, but there's no evidence that anyone was living there.
Okay.
On June 5th, there's no evidence that anyone had moved into the house. The previous owner was a longtime friend. He was my husband's best man, and my husband was his best man. He was suffering from alcoholism, and the house got in very bad shape, and they were foreclosed on. So we kept an eye on the house to see what was going on. And my friend, who is now deceased, his wife and him had moved to another property, and he continued to drink, and so she kicked him out. So he was squatting on that property. He was breaking into the house as late as July of that year. And
This is 2015?
this is in 2015. In July of 2015 was the last time that we saw him. And he said he had met with that guy and that it was okay for him to be there. We didn't know if that was true or not, because he did a lot of lying at that time. I was actually looking for him because it was his birthday on June 5th of 2016. And unfortunately, that's the day he passed away also. So it's very clear to me what was going on there. There was no one living in the house.
Was there a house as of?
There was a house up until the Butte fire.
Well, yeah, but as of June 5th, 2016,
There was nothing, no.
and you mentioned a mobile home, that
There
was
was,
later?
since, after the, let's think, late October of 2016, I had an opportunity to go back up to the property, and I walked up to the property in question, and that's when I saw that there was a motorhome, a large motorhome sitting there, and that there was the evidence that they had grown cannabis, because there was the remnants of the plants and all what the picture shows. So they had grown it this year and harvested it.
Thank you.
Thank
Okay.
you.
Thank you.
Any further public comment?
Good morning. I'm Jay Smith, District 2. I don't know anything about this, but since we're doing public comments, I kind of wanted to give you guys some advice. When you're doing your presentation, as looking at it from the audience, I think your pictures should be the same when you zoom way out on this one, and then when you're showing the problems and you zoom way in, it's a little deceitful. And then when you throw that into, when you're trying to say that whoever these people are did X amount of grading, 100 acres or whatever it is, and that's not true either. Just looking at it from being out here, it just doesn't look completely honest. Now, obviously, these guys are way out of agreement. I mean, they're obviously not doing it correct. But just looking at it from here, your photos should be the same instead of one zoomed way in and one zoomed way out. It just looks deceitful. Thank you.
So I'm going to just comment real quick with what you said. One of the reasons that we have one zoomed out like that is because we need to see the property lines. We need to know if they're within 70 feet of that property line, they're too close, because potentially if they were, that's a reason for him to be able to grade and move his farm. So we need to be able to see those property lines. I understand what you're saying when he does the close-up.
One more photo in.
Okay.
Where they're showing the grading that's been done, which is obviously wrong, and then show, they should just be the same.
Okay, well, we're not trying to be deceitful, I promise you that. Thank you.
Fair enough.
Okay, any other public comment? All right, well then we'll close the public comment and bring it back. Since there's no appellant here, we don't have to go through rebuttal unless you have something you need to add.
I would like to add one thing on the public comments. I would like to make it clear there was never a grading permit drawn for any work out on this project. The work that was supposedly done by Mr. McClure in 2015 and the subsequent work that was done in 2016. There is no record of any grading permit being pulled down at Public Works.
Thank you.
Just to clarify.
Okay. All right, so we'll bring it back for discussion and deliberation for the Planning Commission. You want to start, Mr.?
Okay. With respect to the first reason for denial, it seems clear on this record that there simply is not evidence of grading or earth moving or cultivation on this site commensurate with the area proposed to be cultivated. It's just not here in any of the photographs or any of the evidence submitted by the applicant. And I would suggest that the resolution make that clear, that under Section 1, that there is no evidence of grading or earth moving or cultivation commensurate with the area to be cultivated. With respect to the second reason for denial, I think that that's all correct, except I do question the 100,000 square feet. Unless we have information that in fact all of that was for the purpose of cultivation, I think we should specify in the resolution the best estimate of what was under the terms of the ordinance. And with respect to the third reason for denial, I think the staff report and resolution are just simply correct on that. and I would uphold it.
I have some suggested language to modify the resolution when the commission is done deliberating.
I'm actually okay with it, so.
Want comments on the changes, or just in general? I think this fellow's guilty of some pretty egregious false claims, application, and I see no reason to give it any more of our effort other than denying it, or upholding the denial.
And I agree. I think, I do think the 100,000 square foot, I'm looking forward to your proposed change. And then I'll feel fully comfortable.
So, Peter, I'd like to hear what your recommended changes are to the resolution.
So on page 1, under resolution number 1, add a simple sentence that says no such evidence exists. And then under the evidence number 2, I would advise it to read aerial images taken between May 31st and August 2016 show grading after May 10th, 2016 for the purpose of cannabis cultivation of at least 17,000 square feet. Planning staff concludes this fails to meet the requirements of that section.
The proposed addition to section 1, would that come as the very first sentence? Because if you put it at the end, it doesn't tie to anything.
Yes, the very first sentence under the evidence.
I think that's fine with me.
I think so too. Thank you. Thank you, Peter. Is there any further comment from the commissioners? Okay, so Paul, would you like to read the recommendation with the changes, amended changes, please?
Staff recommends that the Planning Commission adopt Resolution 2016-047 denying appeal. Staff recommends that the Planning Commission adopt Resolution 2016-047 denying appeal 2016-1122, thereby upholding the Planning Director's determination to reject application 2016-938 as amended.
Thank you.
This is a pure technicality, but I think you just said 361132, and it's, I see 36-1 on the...
The appeal number is 1122.
Yeah, that's fine. Okay.
Okay. Does somebody want to make a motion?
So moved.
Second. Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? All right. Yeah. Okay.
This action is final unless appealed within 20 or 15 calendar days. 15 calendar days from today's date.
Okay, can we take a 10-minute break real quick? We need to check our head. Back, everybody. So we're going to move to the next appeal of 2016-1129, appeal of the Planning Director's denial of commercial cannabis cultivation registration application, 2016-427. Greg Stapleton, on behalf of Hidden Valley Patients Group, is appealing the Planning Director's denial of a medical cannabis commercial cultivation registration. The site is located at 19247 Shawnee Trail in Mountain Ranch, and Scott is going to be giving us a presentation on this one.
All right. Is that loud enough there for you?
So far.
Perfect. Okay, as you said, this is 2016-1129 appeal, which is appealing the Planning Director's denial of cannabis cultivation registration 2016-427 for Greg Stapleton. It is located at 19247 Shawnee Trail in Mountain Ranch. just south of Jesus Maria Road. Some background here. The registration, our first inspection of this site was on August 1st, 2016. Code compliance found numerous violations to the ordinance, which we will go through later in the presentation. These included oversized canopy, unpermitted trailers, lack of fencing and gates, improper posting, and the use of an unpermitted hoop house, greenhouse on site. The site manager was present, was notified by the code compliance officer of the violations, and was told to fix the violations and call for a reinspection. The reinspection was called for, and the second inspection was conducted on September 27th, 2016, just short of 2 months after the first inspection. Numerous violations were still present on site, including the oversized canopy, unpermitted trailers, improper fencing and gates, improper posting, and the continued use of this hoop house greenhouse that was unpermitted. Code compliance recommended denial of the application due to the persistence of these violations. On October 6th, the application was denied for the following reasons: failure to remove the excess canopy, failure to meet the fencing and security standards, failure to meet the posting standards, failure to meet the housing standards, permitting of the trailers, and failure to comply with other state, federal, local laws, the permitting of the hoop house, greenhouse. The denial was appealed by Mr. Stapleton on December 12th. In his appeal letter, he states that he has made efforts to comply with the regulations. He does cite the confusing nature of the ordinance and requests that he be allowed to come into compliance with the ordinance. Moving on to the reasons for denial. We'll just take them one by one here. First reason was failure to remove excess canopy. Here's an aerial of the cultivation area on June 9th of 2016. This is how it looked during the summer. The August 1st inspection date found the area to be, the cultivation area to be 23,654 square feet. Section 1795-165J of the urgency ordinance requires any excess canopy to be removed within 24 hours of notification. Here is an aerial photo from August 20th of 2016, so this was 19 days after inspection. If you can just toggle back and forth here, the area is unchanged, and that excess canopy does not appear to be removed. Moving on, failure to meet fencing and security standards. Section 1795-165 N10 states the parameters of the fencing and security requirements as an outdoor or mixed light cultivation area shall be fully enclosed by a 6-foot tall fence of a material and strength that reasonably prevents against access by trespassers and children. Access to the cultivation area shall be secured by a lock of reasonable strength to prevent against access by trespassers and children. August 1st inspection, there was no fencing present. The September 27th inspection, there was some fencing installed, but it was not installed securely, and there were no locks or gates. Here's a picture of the fence that was installed. Here's a picture of an opening to the cultivation area. No gate, no lock, just open fencing. Moving on, failure to meet posting standards. Section 1795-165I outlines these. It's a lot to read, but basically that needs to be clearly posted within 10 feet of the ingress of the cultivation area, shall be posted between 4 and 6 feet above the ground on a durable, rigid, and rectangular signboard of no less than 18 inches per side containing reflective material sufficient to allow an enforcement official to readily locate it with a flashlight after dark. August 1st inspection, no posting present. September 27th inspection, posting not within 10 feet of ingress, and there was no signboard. Here's pictures. You can see the posting there in the middle. Here's a close-up view of it. Obviously not on a signboard of minimum 18 inches per side. Failure to meet housing standards. I do concede that this regulation is a little confusing on the face of it. One, recreational vehicle is defined, and I won't go through the whole thing reading it, but needless to say, if you read through it, it may be confusing on what permits you need, but it does state that any recreational vehicle on site does need a permit. You can come in, talk to us, we'll tell you what permits are available, what you qualify for, but needless to say, it is clear that a permit is required. I do say it is confusing on which permit you need in which situation if you're not used to this regulation, though. On August 1st inspection, multiple trailers were on site without permits. On September 27th inspection, multiple trailers were still on site without permits. Here's a picture of the trailers. Failure to comply with state, federal, or local laws. This outlines that the registration may be invalidated for any of these reasons. Number 2, other violations of federal, state, or local law other than cannabis-related activities recognized by legal by the state of California are occurring on any parcel in the county in the ownership and possession of the registrant. August 1st inspection, there's unpermitted hoop house, greenhouse on site, and it was still being used, still there. No permitting had happened by September 27th. In addition, the applicant registered for outdoor cultivation, so the use of the hoop house would not be permitted anyway. They were not permitted for mixed light cultivation. Here's a picture of the hoop house. You can see plants inside. Now, again, what permits are needed? There was some confusion on that during the summer and fall on exactly what type of permit you needed for what type of structure. But again, no permit of any kind has been issued for this. If you went into the building department, they have materials available to know what permits are needed. So, in summation, the application was denied due to the inability to meet the ordinance standards. The applicant had 38 days between the submission of his registration and the first inspection to meet these standards. That did not happen. He had an additional 57 days between the first and second inspections to meet these standards. It did not happen. The Planning Commission has come to the decision in the past that these provisions are supposed to be in place as of June 30th, and that definitely was not the case. So I recommend that you uphold the planning director's determination and adopt resolution 2017-003 denying this application.
Thank you. Is the appellant or a representative for the appellant here?
May I move these papers?
Yes.
Cool.
Sure.
You want me to sign in?
Please.
Figure I'd be the first one.
Thank you.
Can I ask Scott a question?
Sure. He has a question
Scott,
for you.
on the cannabis cultivation site inspection report.
Yes.
It appears to me, and I'd just like to have clarified, that whoever was filling this out was keeping notes for himself or herself as to what the requirements were, and then wrote what he found. What I'm noting under notes, it says 22,000 square feet, locked gates per regulation. I assume that those are, since later he's saying that there was more than 22,000 square feet, is a 23,654 grow, that those were just notes for references as to what the statute or regulation provide?
That's correct.
Okay.
Okay.
Okay. So, I guess first topic.
Let's start with
With the overage on the square footage, if you'd like to go back and toggle again, I can point out where there is a difference, where we did remove, and we were advised that we were 250 square feet over and not to worry about it.
Well, not to worry about it,
but that it wasn't a big deal.
Yeah.
We weren't aware of the 23,000 or 23,000,
Yeah,
whatever it was.
like the
So if you
1,600,
see-
whatever it is.
Right here next to the greenhouse on your left-hand side, the upper left corner.
I'm sorry,
Oh,
yep,
I'm
thank
the
you, Annette.
co-applicant, Corinne Noble.
I'm Greg Stapleton.
So in the upper left-hand corner, there's been,
No,
well, there's removal right here, and also as well, there's plants we took out throughout the rows.
I'm so sorry. We're going to stop you for just 1 second and get some clarification. You said you're the applicant?
Co-applicant.
Co-applicant.
Yeah.
Okay.
I didn't see that on any of the paperwork until what was sent by the county on the 6th, I believe. It's on here.
And maybe you can get the pointer from planning,
You go ahead.
so you can,
I'm pretty shaky, so we'll do it like we
little
hunt.
nervous.
I have a hard time with it too.
This right here?
That area right there, if you toggle back, you'll see the difference.
So see the difference in this whole, go back, and then boom. Back. Boom. Back, boom.
Okay, so you stated that someone came out and told you you're 200 square feet over,
Yeah.
and it wasn't a big deal, but do you know who that was?
It was Sabrina Cable and whoever the other code compliance officer was that came out. I was not present. My manager was out there. They stated that I had extension cords down the ground. I was 250 square feet over. I was missing a cap on my septic, and I did not have coverings over my soil piles. Okay, that's what I was told, and the fencing and screening. So from that point, I mean, we can go like back to this whole thing. Like, I am a Butte fire victim. I lost everything. So, a lot of people that lost everything sold their properties. They lost, had to do whatever they could to regain monies. I actually stayed in it and fought, so my negligence of like being compliant of the day is because of financial problems, and that's just God's honest truth. So canopy, here, let me do this real quick, if you guys don't mind. Sorry, I'm a little nervous, first time.
Don't need to be nervous.
I got some folders for you guys, so we all can be on the same track while I'm
Thank you. Okay, so you only get 15 minutes, so I need you to stay on task here.
thank you.
All right, thank you.
So you need to go to the house and standard.
Okay. All right, let's whip through this real quick. So, if you guys open your packets, you guys are going to come open to whatever the first one was. Is probably my appeal paperwork. It's going to look like this. I don't know if you guys got it. This is my appeal. It's 2 pages. If you guys want, you guys can flip that to the side. Get that.
No, a bunch
So-
of these things that were already in our packet, so, we.
Well, I'm just like, these are my packets. I'm just submitting.
That's fine.
You guys submitted to me, and
I
I'm
just didn't want you to duplicate, your
totally,
time.
totally. So, anyway, to go down the itemized, I also did have this sheet in there. If you guys flip over and get to this, I was the first one to come in and send in a notice of intent to the county, stated May 10th. If you pass that, you guys go to some emails between me and Gina Cathan, I believe is properly spelled. On the first page, it goes September 7th. I said I would complete everything as soon as possible. She spoke with the inspector. I asked if I could meet with Peter, going over all these situations. The next one, it says, complete every little thing, yada, yada, yada. Down in the bottom of that first email page from her, from Gina, it says, there's no mention of a sign in the memo. memo, just a 240 square feet overage of cultivation, a large pile of soil near a draw that could potentially erode away, numerous electrical cords on the ground, and fence around the cultivation site. That is what was in the memo from Code Compliance on 9/8. So that's evidence right here, first page. Second page, going over to the emails. The top one says, they send planning as an internal memo. This is this copy to the registrant, not copied to the registrant or landowner. Planner director has a discretion of accepting the recommendations or not. We have not taken action on this application for the registration. These violations do not appear to be severe enough to deny one's registration. The ultimate decision is made by our director and has the request to see all recommendations from the SO. I do not see anything in your registration that would result in a denial at this point. I would say that we are just waiting for the site inspection to clear and your background check to come back. Okay. God, you guys got me on a 15-minute timeline.
You're okay.
Okay, so skip that part. We'll
You
skip over.
You still are like 8 or 9 minutes out.
Okay,
so you're
I'm
good.
going to rattle through this real quick. So if you guys skip past the second page of the emails, you go to my seller's permit, which is no big deal. I just wanted to provide that to you. Getting on to the state and federal regulations, I did obtain a building permit, which I did not have a building permit at the time, but this is dated 6/9. So being in compliant with the county and all state and federal guidelines, I came to comply way before any kind of other time and date.
When did- on the 9th of, okay, I was looking at the date. Okay.
Trailer permit, I do and obtained a trailer permit. Date on the trailer permit is 6/9 also. That was the same day I did my building inspection. So I do have that. And we're going to get to the other trailers here later, but this is a trailer permit.
Let's
So
go.
dated then.
Excuse me.
I'm getting there.
The trailer, this permit was posted. We don't know why it wasn't seen. It was posted in the window of the trailer. And just since we're on the subject, the other trailers are used for storage. His parents have one for storage, and also I store my ATVs in the one next to his trailer, which isn't set permanently. The one on the left is permitted.
So my permit is over here in this window, but they didn't go there and see that. So I mean, that trailer was my permitted. This trailer we actually tried to take off the premises and we actually wrecked. It went off the side of the road and we blew out some tires, and that was when we were trying to get that trailer off the property, which that was just, we turned right onto Jesus Maria and going through the windies right there on Railroad Flat. We actually got off the road and we almost wrecked, so we immediately had to bring the trailer back because it was not safe and we were grinding down the way, and that was actually during summertime. And the fire that happened in San Andreas was actually because of a flat tire. So, we were trying to be as safe as possible. We didn't want to drag it down the road, right? Nobody wants to lose no more homes.
Can someone tell me when this picture was taken?
That was the second inspection on the 27th of September.
So, okay.
Yep. Okay, so going up to the next one after the trailer permit is more evidence of taking out the excess canopy. On the top of the email, it's September 28th, which is a day after the inspection date. Showing the view. If you guys want to look at this, I can just kind of right here explain. This page and this page correspond both together, which the other one is showing a circled stock that is cut. And that's literally the day after the 27th of inspection. Flipping through both of those, I don't want to rush you guys, but so flipping to the next one is another dated time. This is August 18th. This is a time date picture. And then if you go to the next one, it will show you of one of my property manager cutting down a plant. So, right here we cut one out, right there, and then right here we cut one out. There's another stock right here. So that right there is 9 by 20 right there. So if I was 240 square feet over, let alone just that right there that's the square footage right there. Just on those two, but I have more evidence of more pictures taken out. So if you guys go past those two, we get into this picture right here, which this was the one that put me over, okay? Right here, all these pots on the side over here, this is 7-gallon pots. It's 123 pots that I had removed from the side right here. I know it looks trashy, but that's what was removed. And they didn't take the time when they came up for double inspection to actually walk around and see if there was anything there. They were actually there for like a minute and a half max. So there's no way that they could have seen if there's any other canopy taken away. And I wish my manager was here to vouch for this, but their time of actually on site was a minute and a half or less.
When we're on this picture, the hoop house is what's off
to the side of it,
left-hand
yeah.
side of that.
Yep,
So
certainly.
this was another covered area, was it?
This is it's actually another pad right next to the greenhouse pad. I put this in as last ditch effort. I had some plants that went bad on me, and so I was just trying to refill a canopy area. If I wouldn't have put all this in, there would have been no questions that my canopy would have not been over, which I think that everything would have fallen into a different category because they're trying to push that I'm 1,200 plus square feet over, but I have evidence coming from a planning official that I was only 240, and that's backdated, and that's coming from code compliance.
You're saying that these were going to be plants that you were going to replace failed plants
Yes, sir.
within the canopy that existed at the first?
Yes, sir. And this is all added inside the site management plan or whatever it was that I submitted to you guys, and I have a copy of it here that I'd be willing to show you guys that everything was measured to scale, everything was submitted. I'm not going out of any grow site that has not been present since 2014. So this is all, sorry.
When is this taken?
Um,
And because we're asking you questions, you're going to get more time, so.
Totally.
Okay.
I don't know exactly. I can go back and try and see if I can.
So are you
retrieve.
saying this is during inspection time? or
That
is-
was taken out, like,
After
so
the
after the first inspection, this is prior to the second inspection that we took those pots out. And the black area was filled, like, it got moved, but that was taken away from the area because there were no plants in it to begin with. And so we had removed 123 of those 7-gallon pots, which is roughly about 12 by 12 area. So it's about a foot, so.
But there were no plants in
No,
these?
sir.
Ever?
Yes, there were.
Oh, I
Yeah.
see. When
Yeah.
were they removed?
Right after the first inspection.
Yeah, right after the first inspection.
First inspection?
Yes, sir.
Okay, thank you.
The date at the top of this, that looks like the camera, it's dating at 11:30.
Yeah, that's when I just had printed those out.
No, that's.
No, the
when we
print
took
was
it.
1/7. The date on the camera is 2016, 11:30.
I have, yeah, he just wanted to show you that it was removed, but I have
Oh.
pictures with my, my vehicle in it that I took, and in it you can see to the side that
Okay,
this
well,
is all
let's keep
removed.
going and we'll see the other stuff.
Okay,
Yeah.
so going on to the next one is going on to the fencing compliance. On the top date of it, September 28th, which was submitted to Gina. I've been in contact with the planning department since the first inspection. Peter, Scott, Gina, both. I mean, everybody's been really cool, very informative. I've been, like, not that I have not been present. I've been actually present more than probably a lot of other people, rattling people's ears and minds, you know what I mean? So I'm trying to, like, get the feel for it because, you know, just like me, this is all new to you guys too. So, so the first page is dated September 28th. The big picture of it is my garden with my little rinky-dink little posting, but there's a posting, and I'm sorry that I couldn't provide anything better at that time, but I mean, I'm trying to do my best, which is with a gate and a lock, because I guess a rollback gate is, which there's no, in the ordinance, it just says securable by however. My gates are rolled back. It's all metal gate. It's not flimsy plastic. So if you were to roll that back, and on the times that they come out is during work hours. So like when we're inside working in the garden, we're not going to turn back, you know, because we're in there. If anything were to happen, we're, you know, protecting, if you want to so say, our garden. But when they came up for inspection, I had my gates rolled back so they could easily walk through, in and out. Electrical cords are on the ground sometimes on any construction site. I've been in construction ever since I was, I believe, 17 years old. During business hours, we do have electrical cords on the ground.
When you rolled I assume at the end of the business day, then you roll the
Roll them
gates
back and lock them.
and then how do you secure them?
By these locks that are present on these pictures. When they came out the first day, which is on the 27th, my manager said that they looked not happy. So that day and the next day, I had to immediately put gates in, just so it looked a little bit better, and that's what they were asking for. Going past that one is the picture of the greenhouse with a gate and a lock on it. That one has a chain on it, but we keep that one locked pretty much. Time of sent is September 28th, so a day after inspection. So I mean that's a pretty prompt compliance. Not trying to go around it. And also, when you guys came out on August 1st, I had no fence in, which I had to pound T-post in August. And the size that I did myself, which I couldn't physically possible lift a slammer to that hard. I mean, I'm pounding 8-foot T-post down to 6 foot, so that's 2 feet of T-post in concrete ground. So it did take me some time, and so you guys are going on the 57 days. It took me almost all of those 57 days to complete that fence by myself. And I did have actually one of my neighbors come over and help me because I was almost not able to slam T-post anymore. And so that's reasoning why the fence took me so long to put in.
So at the time of the second inspection,
The fence was in.
the fence was in, but not all the gates were in? Is that?
Well, there was rollback gates,
There
but that was not, I guess, acceptable or whatever towards the ordinance.
Okay.
It doesn't really specify in the ordinance of what they were actually looking for. It said, secure as possible, or however it's stated in there. I have a screenshot that I can go back and look and read it, but.
Yeah, but once you put up the gates, you had rollback. I mean, once you put up the fences.
Yes, sir.
And that was after the first inspection.
Yes, sir.
You had rollback gates.
Yes,
So by
sir.
the time of the second inspection, you're saying that there was complete fencing and with at least rollback gates.
Yes, sir.
And maybe in some circumstances, some gates.
Yes, sir.
We had actual, the gates that you see here, what he means by the rollback gates is the fencing
Yeah.
that actually goes around. So yeah, after that, we put in the actual gates. It was a bit difficult to find what we needed to.
I understand.
Okay, so going on to the next picture, if you guys are on to this one right here. This is a current picture. I did obviously update my signage because I was told that my little rinky-dink things that I did, but actually on my things I did have reflective tape, which that was one of the things that they asked for. So, but now I have a 3-foot by 3-foot painted green, so it's very much more visible. And this is actually the next page back is another picture of a more topper view of showing this one with the green one and that one with the green one. Still have my fence in, plants are cut out. Soil piles are all covered in the back of it. There's a white little hill right there. Soil piles have all been actually covered also. So postings, going past those ones, sorry for rattling. The next one is going to show a address sign hooked to a fence. This is dated September 28th. Even though it's on a tree, it's still an address posting. And to be quite frank, I don't think that they even took a picture to even prove that I didn't have that. I don't know if they took any entrance pictures to prove, but I did have that, and that was current. And the next page is a little blown up spot of 19247. Dated on September 28th.
When was it actually installed?
When it was actually installed a little bit after the first inspection.
But we did have something up. It wasn't as visible, though. It was kind of set back and old.
The old one burned in the fire. I'm going on to the next picture. It shows my entrance fence. I actually upgraded my address sign to a nicer pole. The tree back behind the fence right here, that was up before they came on their second inspection, which was a green sign with my permit on there. It says authorized personnel only. It says that prior to the gate before you come in. locked gate, but that is what it showed before they came out, and they actually didn't want to prove that I put postings up, obviously. And so I'm going to say that that was actually there on their second inspection, and they didn't want to put that into their postings, which those postings were there.
Does that have the registration?
Yes, sir.
Pending registration notice?
I'm sorry, I guess I could blow it up, but right in the center, you can see lighting. If I had a magnifying glass, you might be able to see a little bit better, but that was actually present on their second inspection. If you guys want to go to the next one, it's actually from an email. This is because they're, in the first complaint that they came out, they said I had soil piles that were not covered. So actually, September 28th, I showed wattles, which is the little rolls for erosion control. That pile was actually covered also, as long as the other, as well as the other two that were covered in the previous pictures that I showed you guys with the white hill, and so on and so forth. And everything has been wattled. And actually, the day that they came up, the 27th, we were at the store. We were getting all the wattles and all the coverings for it. And just to be honest with you guys, I got a loan from my mom to go and get the extra stuff. I'm going to stand here and be a man and tell you guys that. I'm 33 years old, but I put my whole life savings in that property when it burned, and so every single asset, every single thing that I had to rebuy twice. I do have a witness here. When the fire did happen, I rounded up people, I rounded up tanks, I got pumps. I went and fought that fire because I used to be a firefighter for Clements Fire. I was in shorts and shoes, so just want to tell you guys that, I tried to save Jesus Maria. Anyway, going to that picture, it shows my pile that's covered, wattles and whatnots. Next picture is just of another picture just showing that the wattles are down there. Also that there's no plants in the pots. Time of the picture, but whatever, those are late. Going to the next picture, they said that my septic cap wasn't present because it did actually melt in the fire. I have replaced that cap, and I have fixed my septic of their request. So that's not going to be on their memo, but that was something that they asked my property manager to do because they had an environmentalist guy actually come out there. And so they actually, went and checked my septic. And, to be quite frank, I think there's a little bit of pieces missing from this whole thing, why I was inspected. And that was because my neighbor made a complaint against me. And so first people to come out and get checked or whatever is because of on complaints, okay? So my neighbor said that because they walked their horses through my property and their horse pooped on my road, that I took human feces and dug a ditch right by my property and their property and dumped human feces, which I'm not a disgusting person, and I think that everybody could admit, in this crowd I have friends, I'm not that dude, okay? They submitted evidence, and I have a video of what they've done that I would really love to show you guys because they're doing some really wrong stuff. They put a sign, they put a little flag because of the timber cutting people, and they put that flag right on my property, 12 feet from the property line, and took a picture, and that's what they submitted to you guys.
Well,
and that's why
I don't think any of their evidence is before us, but you've made your point as far as...
Well, I'm just saying...
I just don't think you want to get into a long discussion of the neighbors.
I was just going to bring up the reason why I got inspected in the first place.
Now, speaking of the first inspection, do you have a copy of whatever notice was given to your property manager at the time of the first inspection?
As I know you guys are all sitting on the committee or commission, sorry. If you guys go back, I know some of you guys have been present on some of these, code compliance does not give you a written paperwork stating what they are or what the person is being held back on. Building inspections, as far as you guys want to go to homes inspections, when they do that, there is a list of items that actually you have to fix in order for you to complete your compliance to the county on a building inspection or building code or anything of that sort. So I think code compliance should actually follow the same and give a written...
On the inspection report that we have in our packet, it says, gave a list of collections to grow manager.
Verbally.
But that's
verbally. That he texted and then student later gave me, but there's no written
Okay.
There's no written anything from code compliance submitted to my grow site, period.
Well, no, that's
And there's no, and if so, then they should have had my manager sign that stating on the date of receival, and there's nothing of like that.
What did you say about texting?
Texting.
Was,
So when Sabrina Cable and Reva Davis and the two officers and the environmental guy were there, I was actually current on the phone while they were there, okay, and they were going over information. They asked him to get off the phone so that they can explain some stuff to him so that he can put it in his phone. After that, I came back up to the property a couple days later, and he gave me that information, and that's when everything
But
started
the
going in
text
motion.
was, he texted you?
No, he
with-
didn't text me.
Oh.
He wrote it in a little memo type, you know, it's a,
You just mentioned a
On a
text.
note thing on
well, I'm
his
sorry, it's a memo.
Yeah.
My
Okay.
apologies, not a
How
text.
did,
who is he?
Dylan Willie,
Your manager wrote it?
yes, sir.
Okay, not the inspector.
I'm the owner, and that's the
The
manager that was
inspectors
there.
didn't do it, that's what I'm trying to get at.
The inspectors didn't, what?
Give you a
No.
text or a message or...
Nothing. No, sir.
Okay. When we're looking at these two inspections, you're saying one of these was never, ever given to you, either by mail? How do you know what?
I'll swear under
Wait,
oath.
No, you
wait.
don't need to swear under oath. I'm asking you, how did you know what to fix for real if you
Because
don't
they-
get a copy?
Because, well, that's what I'm saying. Like, nobody knows, and came up into this whole committee before. Like, people have asked this question, you guys have asked other people too, you know, and like, there's been no paperwork
Wait,
submitted.
like to interrupt. I do have an envelope with the, that I just received that in. It's
The
posted.
first one or the second one?
That's all we received. And we did receive that just recently, I showed you this.
Yesterday.
We received that in the mail, but prior to that, we'd never received anything other than verbally our site manager telling us what they had requested for us to fix.
And I think we have the envelope, the time and date of sent
Yeah.
So-
on that package.
The one that you got, the dated for August 1st?
I have the envelope, no.
No,
it's-
no, no.
I'm not sure
There's
what the date
nothing,
is.
there's nothing sent to us.
I'm
on
not
August
sure what
1st.
the date is on that memo, but we didn't receive anything until just this month, about a week ago, as when it was post-dated for.
I believe she's referring to the packet that we sent out.
This right here.
The same
Yeah,
packet,
your guys'
the same packet that
packet.
you
This is-
received.
This is the only thing we've ever
No,
received.
wait, that was included, though. That was
This-
included in
yeah,
that
yeah,
packet.
yeah,
But
yeah.
other than that, we hadn't seen anything.
Yeah, this is the only thing, and this is like landed in our mailbox yesterday. So, going through that, oh man, you put all this stuff on here.
If I can interrupt, and perhaps staff can tell me, this form we're just looking at, the August 1st inspection report, says for internal use only. So presumably that is not normally given to the...
It's my understanding that that is the inspection report for code compliance records.
Okay, so that is not, and was not given to them.
My understanding, correct, that it was not given to them.
And also, let's touch bases on a hoop house thing real quick. This packet right here, okay, when Sabrina and them came out, they said that they were going to look into what's going on with the hoop house, because my hoop house is not a permanent structure. It's not concreted to the ground. I have videos of how it is constructed, how it's disassembled. A hoop house could be on your property, so going through your guys' ag stuff for 6 months out of the year. And then when you take the plastic off, which uncovers it and doesn't make it a 4-wall or however domed wall, 3-sided wall, makes it not a permanent or is structure, indoor, greenhouse, hoop house, whatever.
But
That's
if-
like the stipulations that I was kind of hearing of.
But if you hook up electricity to it or
Totally.
water,
Totally.
now you require a permit.
Certainly. Okay.
Okay.
So now getting to that point. So coming into this whole application process of you guys giving these things out, in which in the whole beginning of this, it was indoor, mixed light, outdoor. Okay. So if you guys had all those things, then you guys had regulations and stuff being submittable or, you know, relatively available to us in the whole meetings of this. And I guarantee you, if you guys had all these mixed light guys that are going to be fighting the same thing, if they had this on a $275 because we paid $5,000, $2,500, $10,000, $20,000 for all these other things, like, what is going to stop me from a $275 permit to get my greenhouse permitted? This was just submitted late October, early November. I would like somebody else to tell me when this was actually, because I've called planning, I've called code enforcement, I've called building, I've been down there the other days, actually the past couple of days. I've been down there Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, okay? As people, as my witnesses, I mean, I've been there through the planning, through the code compliance. I've talked, I can't see this lady's face, but I might have talked to her. I mean, I have like witnesses in this place that I'm like doing everything that I'm trying to, you know, do.
That not until October,
Yeah.
we weren't able to get this information.
But I'm just saying, if this would have been available on the application process, you know, or sitting on the desk of anywhere, be like, hey, this is your hoop house thing. If you guys want to go and do a mixed light, this is the permitting process. This is how you want to do this. I would have done that.
But your permit,
Was denied before this even came out.
no, but the original, your registration, you were asking only for outdoor,
No,
right?
mixed
Oh,
light.
You were?
Yes, sir.
Well, that's something we need to clarify.
I'm sorry.
I mean, we can clarify the planning also.
Well, I'm just trying to hurry up.
Did you submit this entire folder to the planning department as evidence that did you submit this to them?
No, not as of any other day. I was never told to.
No, I was just asking.
Oh, no.
Just emails, the pictures that he
I've just
submitted.
been like, it's always better in person than it is to talk elsewhere, you know, so I've kind of been handling all my matters, kind of just personally, you know.
Oh, thank you. Okay. But I don't see where you have any outdoor on this.
It's mixed light.
Yeah, right.
That
But
means
does that mean?
That's indoor or outdoor.
And green, oh, okay, okay. You want to show that to Scott, the planner?
I guess it was changed. All right, it appears it was subsequently changed, because the application itself does in fact say outdoor, but the, I see. So as of September 7th, it looks like it was changed to mixed light. The original on June 24th that states outdoor. So that was updated and changed.
So you said that was September that it was changed?
So in September, it was changed to mixed light cultivation, which we have been allowing people to do as long as they stay within their footprint. And get proper permitting.
That's key.
And just to answer your question on this whole, everything's filled out wrong. I'll go on record on saying this. I was misrepresented, and so was some other people in this county, from a lawyer who went under a fictitious name, Stephen Taylor. Mr. Turner, I guess, can kind of vouch for it. He's heard of the guy. He looked it up, and this guy his real name is Stephen Jaycox. He's been disbarred twice. There's actually another person up in this community that he represented back in the day, which that's how I got this information. I do not know if I'm allowed to say the guy's name, but I'll just stick it to Bobby. He had fired this guy because he found out that this guy has been disbarred twice from tampering with evidence, illegal activities with other substances. When this whole application process came apart, he handed everything over to my fiance, and we're the ones who actually got another 9 to 10 applications pushed through because of our work that we helped them out with. Actually, her. Okay, she busted her butt. I don't know the words I'm allowed to say in here. People as my witness that she handled all these applications. We do have evidence that we can put forth to
But
that
there were a
too.
lot of errors on each application that I tried to put through. Gina helped me, which helped a lot of people out. So you would have a lot more denials up here, or
Well,
there was a lot of
denials.
There would be a lot more denials because there were plenty of errors, and we would like to seek counsel again.
I'm just going to go into the
possibly.
terms of misrepresentation, major. And this is a picture of my greenhouse, how it's built. And
So-
if you guys were to go look in all your specs and everything of how everything is built, this is the raw form of it when it was built. This is,
I have questions about some of your photos.
Okay.
So bear with me. You went through the Butte Fire.
yes, ma'am.
Did you lose a home?
I did not lose a home.
Okay. So when I'm looking at these photos and I look at the entrance to your gate, your property is obviously severely burned.
Oh, I have photos of that.
Okay, but when I'm looking at your photos, I'm looking at very mature green trees. So did only part of your property burn? I mean, what direction are we facing here that we're seeing?
That's the top of the hill. That's south. That's almost my southwest corner.
And it didn't burn?
It did. It burned up to the sides. I have like trails and stuff that were cut around.
Okay.
My garden was actually, I mean, so if you guys go into a fire, you know, you guys see the ash, the everything. We're out of power. We're out of water. We're out of everything for 2-3 weeks. I mean, you know,
I'm just trying to verify these photos are on your property because they look like two different properties.
Oh, no, it still appears the same way. Part of the property was burned, but this survived where the interest didn't.
Okay, got it. Works for me. I see the green, I see the burn. Thank you. Pardon me? Oh, okay. And I like seeing some green left.
Well, dude, I mean, you know,
wait, let me rephrase that. I like seeing pine trees.
And we all concur, you know?
You can see from the aerial photo here, the north end, you can see some burned trees and things like that. Over in the rest of the aerial here, there's plenty of green trees on the property.
So we have an assessor's document in our packet, and it shows your address as 22 Millbrook Creek in Sacramento or something?
Millbrook? Yeah.
Yeah.
That's a mailing address.
But have you ever lived there? Or?
That's my parents' address.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, I've got some questions.
We all
It seems to be pretty clear that you were not supplied with a copy of this cannabis cultivation site inspection report of
No, sir.
August 1.
No, sir.
Okay. And it seems to be clear that nobody gave you a written list of corrections. Am I
No,
right
sir.
there?
No, sir.
But is there in existence a memo prepared by your grow manager on a phone that reflects what he was told?
Well, yeah, because in the email that I stated that I had received from her, it stated 240 square feet. It stated some of the other articles that are actually in this denial process. Extension cords on the ground, hoop house. You know, that was a verbal thing that they were actually supposed to look into what the hoop house things were going on. They were supposed to have gotten back to us because nobody really knew what the literature on the hoop house was, and so what they were supposed to submit to us. And so on their second inspection, they talked to nobody. You know, and when they come out and they do their measuring, they're doing it from a sight glass. They're not out there rolling, you know, people's sites. They're doing it by a laser measurer, which I don't know if anybody of you guys are familiar with that, but those things are horribly inaccurate.
Well, let me ask you this question, though. I've got the email from Gina Catha of September 8th, but I thought you said that your grow manager memorialized what he was told on his phone or something like that.
Yes, sir.
Okay, now, can you give us a copy of what your grow manager put on that phone?
No, it was in a memo, and he's actually no longer here. I had terminated his helping of anything on my property.
So that memo is not available?
No, that memo is not available. But, I mean, as far as my corrections and everything else, from what you guys are trying to deny me on versus what they told me and actually evidence of here, and I wish somebody of those persons would be present this day to actually confirm what they said to me, but I'm going to stand here and tell you that that's what they said. And so until somebody stands here and, you know, kind of tells me that that's not what the circumstances of what happened that day, and I'm not trying to be cocky or nothing, but I'm just saying, like, I'm here, that's what they told me, that's the information I got, that's what I fixed. As quick as my possibility. And this right here is my site plan map that I submitted to you guys. And actually on every one of these tiers right here, greenhouse, other pad right here, and everything has been measured out. I hand measured with a long tape.
Now, was this
Every single terrace that was put on there. And even though adding up everything that I actually put in there to on the cultivation side actually left me with 1,600 extra square feet. And so actually the side that I added onto on the other side, and this is going by like some pretty accurate measurements because like going into this application process, if any of us were wrong on anything that we submitted to you guys, that'd be held against us, you know?
Did that chart, was that the chart that you submitted with your original registration?
Yes, sir.
package?
This whole folder right here is my master copy of everything that I submitted to you guys.
And it shows the greenhouse?
Yes, sir.
And, well, you actually show it to planning.
Can you explain what you mean by that extra 1,600 square feet?
So adding up all the terrace, that's what they're called, not terrorists, but terrace. I measured the widths plus lengths, and that's the total canopy of my sites.
Which was what?
Huh?
What was that number?
I'm a 22,000 square foot. I'm sorry.
Complete the thought. You measured it, and the result was?
I'd have to look back at the paper. It has a total. From site A, or here, okay, so I have 3,700 square feet. I have 2,400 square feet. Hold on a minute.
It's just the measurements.
That's the measurements. These are the totals.
For the areas, yes.
Okay, so I have 3,700 square feet. I have 2,400 square feet. I have 3,600 square feet, and I have 12,370 square feet.
12,000 what?
12,370, that's the hoop house, correct?
No, ma'am, that is my lower area. That's this site down here.
That's
the
the
largest site.
Okay,
Yep,
thank you.
you're welcome.
And what was the date of that measurement?
What was that?
What was the date of that measurement?
It was before the application process. I mean, that was like June 9th, or don't quote me on whatever that date is, but this is all.
2,400 square feet for the.
That's all preparing for your application.
I have a picture of the day that I actually did it, so I mean, I can give you guys a really firm.
But it was part of the registration
Yes,
process?
sir. Yeah, so this is all due before.
The greenhouse is right here.
And
It's 2,400 square feet.
so planning recognizes that that is the plan?
Yes, that was a site plan that was included, which I was just discussing with Gina, was most likely why we approved the switch to mixed light back in September, because the greenhouse was on the original site plan.
You said, what started this was your statement that you had, I think you said 1,200, or was it 1,600 extra square feet?
Yes, I had that somewhere right around there. So
How does
I
that
mean,
count, because these total to 22,000?
is that on 22,000?
22, I got 070 at the end, so maybe I'm off 70.
No, that's what I get too.
I don't math 22,000 square feet, there's no extra. You're over by 70 or
70
whatever.
square feet.
One thing while we're
Can I
pausing.
Can I follow up on that? Am I jumping the gun? Earlier, there were two slides, we went back and forth, and you were pointing to a black line. There we go. What is that black line that you said was
That
removed?
black line is a depth tarp, I believe.
And you're saying that that was removed?
In between what he's saying is there's plants showing right there, and then if you go to the next slide where that tarp is, the plants are gone in between the tarp and the...
Okay, all right. So after that was removed, how did that change the measurements of the square feet as far as you know?
Well,
Just
I
the
mean,
plants
it should have.
Were those plants part of the listings you gave us a few minutes ago?
The actual, okay, so I added on something that wasn't actually like part of the whole thing. Hold on just one second. I got this. So the other greenhouse pad on the side, I actually put those dimensions in there, which was 30 by 50. I think, I don't know, because I can show you backdated photos that I've never really cultivated that whole section. That's always been like a nursery staging. It's like always been, that spot's been like where I bring up my little ones, and they go from that side, and that's where they disperse from there. So, I can prove that by photos and everything, but that's like a pre-year of nursery that I submitted to you guys where I would have plants, literally.
What I think you're saying is that the miscellaneous plants that disappeared in the other slide were not part of this.
No, it's not.
These four sections, which totaled 22,000.
But we also removed other plants.
They were extra.
Yeah, we
but we also, like earlier in the whole folder of this thing, I showed you guys that I had removed some large plants, and
Right.
I mean, just even in the holes, themselves, the holes were 6 by 5, which the canopy goes over.
Where were they?
They were down on the lower area. I got this little thing right here. So those plants that I actually removed were these two corner plants right here. That plant and that plant right there.
So they were part of one of these other sections that you quoted?
Yes, sir.
Section F.
That is section F.
But I would like to say so what we thought that we were over because of this nursery area that we have listed, this is the cannabis nursery. We thought that made us over and that they were actually adding that into our square footage because we hadn't added that into our square footage. So we thought, okay, well, they're going to include this, we'll take this away. And we'll take a couple other plants just in case, extra. So we removed that. We thought our measurements were at 22,000 square feet. So that being without that area. So to our knowledge, we thought this must have been what made us over. So we removed that, we removed a little bit extra.
But if those two corner plants were removed, they weren't, as I understand it, this is August 29th? 20th. Oh, I can't read it. Okay.
Yeah, and my pictures were actually before that. They were actually before the 19th
So
of that
by
picture.
August 29th, you had removed your nursery plants, but you
Yes.
hadn't cut those two
Oh,
corner
no, the
plants.
nursery plants were already gone in June-ish time, like probably the second week of June is when everything left that site and they dispersed to all the other rows and everything. That's where I did everything by seed this year. So that second greenhouse pad to the left, that was just like my pre-staging area, if you want to so call. Like there was no canopy.
But
no.
now I'm getting confused.
I'm sorry.
No, that's probably me. Your, what we'll call the nursery area.
Yes, sir.
If you thought that was your overage, but that you'd remove those before the first inspection, is that what you're telling me?
No, we removed this.
That's
I'm a little bit confused too.
okay.
This is probably where I need like counsel.
So we removed those after the first inspection, didn't we?
Yes.
Yeah, that's what you were trying to clarify.
Is it-
We removed those after the first inspection. I
Okay.
believe.
We can't hear you.
I'm sorry. Yeah, I believe we removed those after the first inspection. I'm not 100% sure, but I believe that we did that. We removed more than the two trees, I believe,
thought that the
too.
pictures he showed us in the folder that he cut out the mature plants.
Yeah, he did cut out mature in addition to.
Those were,
In addition to that, yeah, not at the same day, on the same day, but in addition to removing that nursery staging area, we also removed mature plants, large
by
plants.
removing the nursery staging area, you obviously planted them in the ground somewhere.
We got rid of them.
No. Oh, no.
Yeah,
They were little clones.
Okay.
we had nowhere to put them.
They were little clones, and basically we planted them. The whole thing came about them, and I plucked every little plant. They're not big, tall, mature plants. There was never.
Okay,
a
so
big,
his
tall,
question
mature plant.
was, in order to meet the square footage, you removed that strip of baby plants, and
Yes.
then you also took out a couple of mature to bring your square footage down
Yes,
to
ma'am.
compliance.
Yes, ma'am.
There. Got it?
You got it all.
So did the 22,070 square feet that you get when you add up the four areas, did that include the nursery plants at that time?
No.
Okay. And what did you do to get rid of the 70 square foot excess?
70 square foot.
Yeah. Because by your own figures, it adds up to 22,070.
Yeah, 70 over.
Is that the two plants?
No.
I mean, it could be if you want to. I mean, I don't know.
No, I thought we were measuring a little over, to be honest, so I just, in case it was, I didn't want to seem like I was being deceitful anyway. And we have other plants, I don't know if he remembers this, but we had lots of other plants. So if you actually measured it at that time and you went and looked down our rows, we had empties throughout. I mean, if we didn't, this grow was actually a whole loss, but we had empties and we had issues already. So there was rows where there was plants missing already prior to them coming out and measuring.
So where on this picture, if we'd see it, would be the place where we saw the picture with all the pots with no plants in them?
That would be what I have listed as the
Nursery.
It's the cannabis nursery.
No, but
We're on the picture.
where on this picture was that?
If you toggle over, it's going to be right there what's missing. So if you go over to the next screen, can you toggle over? See, that's the area you can cut it. They're very small pots, so it's hard to see. But that was where we had all the small clones that were beginning.
But we saw a picture that had some metal framing as if it had been covered. And I don't see that on here. I'm just trying to place where that is on this whole thing.
The covering was for a short time, so I don't know.
I think they just got their permit to do that, right? You just got the permit to do the hoop.
It's
Well,
this picture that I'm talking about.
Yeah, that we just threw to cover from getting like any, what was it, frost or something?
I don't know
have no
where
idea.
this is on the property.
Oh, that's over here.
That's right
on
there.
this side.
It wasn't in that picture yet?
Yeah.
Okay.
Right.
Can you clarify one more thing for me? On the date of the first inspection, you were not there, so they spoke to a worker.
Yes, manager.
On the date of the second inspection, were you there?
No.
Okay.
Can I make a comment on that? During this time, I got pregnant and I was put on bed rest and I needed help to getting the kids to and from school. We want to end up in Mountain Ranch. We want to raise our kids in Mountain Ranch. I live in Lodi right now, so I actually ended up losing that pregnancy November 2nd. But he had to come down and help me, which we had to have Dylan, who was a little younger and wasn't really living up to our expectations.
Fit for the job.
So we got messages relayed from him, and it just so happened that day that he just left, and I was having trouble, with things, and I needed his help. So that's kind of on me. I couldn't do things on my own.
That 22,070 square feet that you get when you add up your 4 areas, how accurate is that measurement? Did you have one of those tapes on a wheel, or how did you figure that out?
No, I just hand measured. I hand measured every single row.
With a tape?
Yeah.
But you did the measuring?
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Okay, now there's a mention that on the second inspection, the greenhouse had fans running in it?
Yes.
Is that correct?
Yes, sir.
And what were those fans doing, drying product?
No, sir. In a greenhouse, along those times, so in a greenhouse, it's domed. You got plastic, you got pots, you got water, you got heat, you got humidity. The fans just oscillate the air, simply just to prevent from any kind of powdery mildews. Whip some of the air through. That's pretty much what that's been.
Okay, so those are an aid to growing, not drying at all?
Yes, sir. That's just simply to grow in.
Okay, does that greenhouse where these plants are being grown, is that included in that 22,000 square feet, or is that?
Yes, sir.
Yes.
The canopy actually on the inside of the greenhouse, the greenhouse dimensions of what it is, but I don't know, where technically if you guys are measuring canopy space, but inside the greenhouse, it's not side to side. There's actually a 5-foot walkway down the side. The ends are not all the way full. So the total canopy area, I don't know how the county would want to rule that. I'm okay with saying that it's the dimensions of the greenhouse because that's where it's actually consumed inside. I'm willing to take that. If you guys are actually going on canopy, I do have videos of inside where the pots are set and where they're laid, stating that it does not consume the whole full width of the greenhouse, width and length. And also a big pathway down the center of it.
Okay, that prompts another question. When you did your measurement of the outdoor areas, what you're counting as canopy, that includes the spaces between the plants? The whole area?
Yes. Actually, it consists of where the plant is, where the plant would end up to be. That's how they consider the full canopy, so.
Well, when the plants are grown out completely, do they touch each other?
Most certainly, sometimes yes. But
So
it depends on the spacing that you have your pots, actually, my plants did not lace together. That's what I would call it. But they were separated far enough to where they wouldn't touch one another.
A couple feet in between all of them.
So within that 22,000 square feet, the way you do your planting, there's going to be
Major dead
some
space.
areas when you're looking from above that are not green?
Most definitely. I mean, you could tell in that picture right here, like, I'll point out a couple of them. So, like in between this row and this row, right there, there's a big dead space. Right here, that's all missing. That's goes down to here, and it cuts all the way down to here, inside there, and then back around. There is a dead space right here also, but that's just because of where the terrace were and how, you know, everything was just laid out. Up here, there's major. That's big areas in between.
Okay. Are there any more questions for them?
I'd like to get to the excess trailer matters. I don't know if you guys
Yeah.
want to touch back on that.
Well, I have some questions for you that I wanted some clarity on as well. How many trailers are on the property now?
4.
Okay, so you gave us an explanation of one of them, and you got a permit for it.
Yes, ma'am.
The other one you said was your Toys RV AVTVs, and that one you tried to remove, had to bring back. What are the other two, and why didn't...
We brought up that one. I'm
Okay,
just gonna say,
the other two are storage. You said one's your storage, one's mom's.
yeah, the one is my parents'. I do have a letter from her stating what she's claiming on my property. My parents unfortunately had to move from where they were, and so where they had to move to, because of my grandma, it's a trailer park, and they don't have the storage for it. So they asked me if they could bring it up, and I said kindly yes. One of the other trailers that are down on the spot, I brought some people up for working, and this was prior to the ordinance and stuff all that came out. This is, I think they came up February, maybe-ish, late January. When the whole ordinance came out to where I went to the building department to try and get permittings because it stated in there that you can get permittings for seasonal workers or this or that, but you're not able to get the seasonal workers permit for their trailers until you're approved on your application. So, I mean, there's a lot of people out there that don't and won't and can't get permittings for their workers.
Okay,
you know.
so the lower building being used by workers, do you have a building on the property?
I do have a building, and that's not where they live. No.
Are they occasionally staying in that building?
Oh,
So-
no.
Can I say,
No.
that was actually, the person who moved was my sister that stayed with us for a short amount of time. She was family, and she left to go to college. So she's not there anymore, and they never stayed in the building. The building, you know, that was never a
But the building
residence.
was being used by workers for what? Or do you admit that it was being used by workers?
Oh, I admit that I hung some plants in there. Yeah, at one point.
And
yeah.
we would go in and have lunch and stuff there. It's the only place we had air conditioning. So, you know, we have a little mobile, so it got pretty hot. And we
Okay.
lost everything else. I mean, just all trees.
Okay. Does anybody else have any further questions? And did you want to give any more, or are you good?
I'm not going to take too much time on it, but these are just like two of the pictures that this is the one that we had to ask the people to leave because we couldn't get their trailer permitted.
Usually we pass those around and speak at the microphone so they're on record.
While we're looking at these, I just wanted to point out that you're dealing with two different groups here. The planning department, who's recommending something to the planning commission. So we're taking a new look at all this, and then we'll be discussing about it. But it isn't just one. It's not you against the entire world here.
I would like to...
We've got two.
That's how I got to act about it, you know?
Just wanted to make it clear.
I would like to say that we put a lot of effort into trying to comply. We went to all the meetings and we did everything. I mean, we spent many a days jumping through every hoop we could think of. Sometimes there was no information to give. Other times it would be contradicting. And we're not in it to grow and leave Calaveras. It's been nothing but loss. I sold my home and invested in here. I sold my home to be able to pay for the application and the water board. We haven't seen profit yet. It's been a lot of loss. And we're hoping to be able to, reverse the denial and to be able to make enough to live, to stay there. Not only did the fire, take away our grow that we had, it also took all of his tools for his other trade, which is construction. I don't have a home to fall back on now. We're not part of the influx, and this is our family. It's everything we have left, basically. And, we've been trying as much as we possibly can.
Okay.
This is from my parents about their trailer being stored. I don't know, do you guys want to care to see this? Or?
Why don't you talk about the pictures that you brought up?
Okay. So the ones that I brought up, that was where we brought up her sister. Their mother had, so last year we had the fire. Her mother had died. She has 2 young sisters. We were on a chain of events that's fire, her mother's death, trying to take care of all the kids. We have 3 kids. The community in distraught, the community needing help. We all help one another out. To this year, to, trying to buckle down and get everything in, getting loans. I'm neck deep in loans right now, personal loans. We had a baby. We actually got in a car wreck, which that's what
you know what?
So.
I'm sorry, and I'm not trying to be rude. I appreciate everything that you're saying, but we need to stick to the agenda in his question. You brought 2 pictures up of the trailer, and I know you were working up to the sister, but was she living in it?
Yeah.
That's what you're trying to tell us?
For a short amount of time.
For a short amount of time.
Yeah,
for a short amount of time.
A couple
okay.
weeks they stayed with us.
And so by seeing tires and things in the pictures now, are what you telling us is that the trailer is not being used anymore? It's
Exactly.
storage?
That's all
storage.
their stuff. Mm-hmm. We had to ask them to leave, which really upset, and so they just kind of left. And so we're trying to get their trailer off, but I don't want to touch other people's property on my property because I can be liable, and I don't want no lawsuit on my hands. So it's kind of a sticky situation.
And then you started to bring up a different picture, and what was that going to be proof of evidence for your case?
This is actually an email from my mother and a picture of their trailer being stored at my place. If you guys care to read it and see it.
If you could hand it down to Annette or Commissioner Wooster, they'll pass it down to us and we can look at it. I do want to say that of all the cases that we've heard, you've brought a whole lot of good evidence that we haven't received in the past.
I was actually told to dumb it down because I was going to bombard you guys.
But I have to tell you.
This is like me being held back.
Well, and I understand that, but there's times whenever we wish they would have brought the evidence and they didn't.
Certainly.
And so the support for your case, you're doing your best and I appreciate it. That's good.
Thank you.
Question on the reinspection on September 27th of last year. Did you contact them to have that reinspection done?
Yes, I did. I sent Gina an email. That was, I believe, on the weekend, Monday. She told me that later in the week that they were going to be doing a reinspection. They actually showed up on Tuesday, which was the 27th. When I was Monday, I was supposed to link up with my mom, get some funds. Like I told you guys before, I wasn't able to link up with her, meet with her on that day. So Tuesday was when we went down to town. She had helped us buy the supplies, and that's when they were already down there. We were down in town buying the supplies. I figured I had at least another day to, get the wattles in, get the coverings on the piles. That was kind of like the minor-ish stuff. I believe that, The major thing was the fence. It wasn't, it didn't have fences on it. I mean, I have locks, but I just don't understand how, like, when code compliance comes up and they visit your site and it's during working hours, that you're supposed to have everything sealed up, locked up. You can't have, tools or accessories that you can normally work with in any other trade or field or anything. So, if you guys don't want extension cords being used and stuff like that, I fully understand. I get it, I'm not doing anything maliciously. I'm not doing anything, I'll sit here and plead my whole sob story to you guys, but
Yeah, we don't need to do that.
I'm just telling. Oh, come on.
I'm like so far past 15 minutes, but we interrupted you with a lot of questions. So I'd like to call it good if you're good with that.
Yeah, and public speaking, I have emails from other people, so I don't know how you guys want to handle that. I have an email.
You get a second chance to come back, you know that, right?
Oh, cool.
Could I ask one more?
I'll be back.
Yeah, you can ask another question.
Okay.
After the second inspection, or as a part of it, did you get a notice, anything in writing then?
No.
I think you've told us that within the next day or two, you finished off with the, what are they, wattles? Waffles?
Wattles. Yeah. It's hay.
All right, and the septic cover and the.
That was all
gate.
previous. That was all done previous.
So
before
did you follow up, and you probably already showed us in emails, but I'm sorry I haven't focused on every single piece of paper. Did you then tell the
next
code
day.
compliance people that you had done all that?
Well, so, okay.
And let me finish my question. Actually, did you tell them before the October 6th, I think is the date of the violation notice?
We actually sent emails of the compliances.
Yeah, I had sent those in an email, and I think in your guys' folder from the planning department, my pictures should be present in there of all my corrections and improvements.
So I think his question is, you were sending your emails to the planning department. Did you communicate with code compliance that work was done before and request your second inspection? Were you communicating with code compliance? Would they
Not
have?
personally.
Okay.
Not personally. I did not communicate with code compliance personally.
Okay.
I had sent in a request, and yeah.
That's good.
From the planning department.
You answered the question. That was awesome.
Yeah, so.
Okay. When did you put the gates that are there now in? When did you put that in?
I actually put those, I actually sent some pictures of the gates on the 27th, but I had to set post, set concrete. I didn't want to hang the gates on it you guys get it. I didn't want to hang a gate on fresh concrete. So I submitted the pictures the next day, but if I could have slapped something up, that would have not looked so hot. It could have been the 27th.
Now, when you called for the reinspection, was it your anticipation that the reinspection would take place later
Yes,
than
sir.
September 27?
I was informed that it was going to be later in the week. That was pretty, I'm not gonna, that's nonsense for me to try and fight that. I mean, they showed up when they showed up. I called for the reinspection. They could have came out on Monday and I could have not been good then. And the end result, it would have happened in the same way of the pictures being submitted on the 28th because I simply didn't have the money to go and buy all the tarps and yada yadas.
We did think that it would be later in the week, so we thought that we would have all of the everything completed, is what you're asking, I think.
Because I was curious because it seemed like you did a lot on the next day after they were there. That explains why.
You guys done? Okay. You can go ahead and have a seat for a minute. Don't leave.
I'm out. Thank you.
I wouldn't be so quick to do that. Now I'm totally lost where I'm at. Somebody get me in order. Yeah. So we need to take public comment now, if there's anybody that would like to comment on this particular one.
Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Kaz Tomaszewski. I'm the Executive Director of the Calaveras Cannabis Alliance. I want to take a minute to say welcome to the two new members on the board. A couple of questions. So the list of violations, if I have it correct, is square footage, trailer permitting, greenhouse gates, posting of signage, covering of soil and extension cords, is that correct?
Not the covering of soil or extension cords.
Okay, gotcha, all right. And the dates of the 2 inspections were what?
August 1st and September 27th.
September 27th, okay. Were they notified, so they called for reinspection, okay? So did the county at all give these people a length of time that they had to correct their problems?
Okay, so Kaz, this is public comment, it's not, I mean,
Well, it's, I think that...
you're asking a lot of
All right,
questions
so
that we
I'll
felt
skip.
we were getting answered here.
I'll skip. Okay, so...
Turn it into statements.
So I'll turn this into statements. So
Perfect.
it seems that what happened was these people were inspected. They received differing information from county officials as to what the problem was, specifically the square footage. They didn't receive any official notification directly of what the issues were, leading to a miscommunication on what needed to be done. Then they call it inspection on themselves because they think they're fine, because there was some crossed lines. Now, there's no judgments here. This is a heavy lift. It's been a difficult program, and I think that these appeal processes are learning opportunities. But I would hope that if an applicant were expected to fix a problem, that there's some type of official way that they're notified of what those problems are. Even if that's not the case, there's one big issue here, the greenhouse. So we were in contact with the building department and planning department for about 3 months on the greenhouse issue. We had people asking us, like, what do I do about my hoop house? What we got back from the county was, we're working on code for this, just give us a minute. And so we told our people, including Greg, who asked me personally about this issue, what do I do about my greenhouse? We're waiting to hear back from the building department. CCA received an email officially from the building department with that document in the first week of October. Their inspection was at the end of September. What it feels like here is that they're being expected to comply with code that wasn't even publicly released to us until a week later, and then being recommended for denial on it. And I don't think that that's necessarily fair. The message we received from multiple county departments was to wait until we heard what that code was going to be. And at the time that they were denied for this, it was not publicly available to our knowledge. And if you lump together those issues of what came by from miscommunication or being, cited for code that wasn't yet made available, what you're left with is the posting of signage and the extension cords, which I don't think really warrants denial. That's the sum total of my comments. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good afternoon, everybody. Excuse me. I'm John Litzberger of Mountain Ranch. I'm a neighbor of Greg's, and I just wanted to real quickly say he's always been a good neighbor during the fire. Collaborated a lot, and just wanted to verify his genuine. He's a genuine person, and I think he deserves a chance to continue to cultivate. Thank you.
Thank you.
John Litzberger.
Could you please?
Oh yeah.
I don't think I can spell that correctly.
Yeah. Thank you.
Good morning, I'm Sabrina Cable with Code Enforcement, and I was present during both inspections. Although this is not my case, I can answer a few things for you. The first inspection on August 1st was a complaint-based inspection. We were still being reactive at that point. We did not have forms to give out for corrections yet. However, I did witness Deputy Matt Anderson give the grow manager a list of corrections, which he was told to recite back. And the grow manager was on the phone with Mr. Stapleton pretty much the entire inspection. So he was made well aware of what needed to be corrected.
Excuse me, did you say you were present and
I
you
was-
saw this happen?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, I was present at both inspections. Secondly, since then, we have implemented a 10-day corrections list, which we are giving out to growers when we inspect. Mr. Stapleton was given 57 days to correct these violations. All other violations aside, the fencing was inadequate. Could he be working in the garden? Absolutely. Could he demonstrate that it could be secured against trespassing? No. It was not secure. Both times we visited, we drove directly up to the grow site, had full access. It was not secured and could not be secured, and that was 57 days.
When you say it could not be secured?
It could not, no.
What we were seeing in pictures were.
It was rolled back.
Existing fencing and rollback.
Yes. No locks, no evidence of reasonable prevention from trespassers or children.
If the rollback was rolled back and locked, wouldn't that be as good a fencing as if it were just solid fencing?
Perfectly reasonable, yes. But it was not and could not be demonstrated at either inspection. Mr. Spear has photographs of that. I don't see any locks present. And to add on that, 57 days is more than enough time to correct a posting. For someone who's highly invested in this business, that's the least of the corrections that could have been fixed, well within 57 days. Any questions?
I have a question. Was that a different fencing on the second time than the first?
That's the second time. That's September 27th.
What was there on the first inspection?
There was no fencing on the first inspection.
So he did at least buy the fencing.
I believe so, yeah.
And he's got the T-posts in. And it sounds like the only thing missing is a lock of some sort that you don't see.
Correct.
That could have been in his back pocket.
Could have been, but he did not demonstrate that it could prevent trespassing.
But Sabrina, you weren't dealing with the owner. The owner wasn't there or
Nope.
the applicant. You
No,
were
he
dealing
wasn't.
with a worker.
Yes, who was on the phone with the owner.
No, that was the first time out, but what about the second time?
The second time, I believe he was on, like I said, this isn't my case, but I was present, and I do believe he was in contact with Mr. Stapleton both times.
Okay, I was understanding that, so who was Code Compliance talking with the second time?
The same gentleman as the first. I didn't catch his name. They stated it.
They said his manager.
Did you get involved in measuring the grow area?
Yes,
canopy?
and thank you for bringing that up. That's another aspect I wanted to address. We do physically measure with rollers all sites. At that time, I believe the deputies were also using laser measurers, so we both had the same measurements from our respective tools.
Do you have the figures, the actual numbers?
They're on the inspection sheets. I don't have those, I'm sorry.
You've heard, or were you here when Mr. Stapleton listed the square footages of the specific areas?
I'm sorry.
They totaled 22,000. His numbers were very specific.
Mm-hmm. Both of our figures would be on the inspection reports. I don't have those.
And were those measurements made, or excuse me, were you done?
No, yeah.
Were those measurements made of the exterior
Yes.
of the grow?
Yes.
So if there were 10, 15-foot gaps, that would not be...
We don't take those into account. Usually a good rule of thumb is if you can drive a car through it, we don't count that.
I'm sorry, what?
If you can drive a car through it, we don't measure
You
that.
wouldn't count that.
We separate it. If you can walk between it, sure. You know, enough, like he said, for the plants to fill in. 10 to 15 is not reasonable to count as
A gap.
a gap, yeah.
So
If that makes sense.
it does make sense, but and especially when we're measuring canopy, we're not measuring plants, we're not measuring rows, we're measuring a canopy area. So I get that. My question and my concerns are notification to either the applicant or the owner. And I understand this has been a huge learning curve for every department and overload in mass. I get that. And we started out learning too. So, and now we have 3 new commissioners also learning. We haven't had the opportunity to talk with you, and I am so happy you're here to help us understand a little bit of the process. And I guess my specific question is, how do we expect people to make corrections if they're not given these lists somehow in some way in a written format? It's just verbally they're given the list? And
in this, like I said, now we do have duplicate correction forms, which
Okay.
they do sign.
Okay.
And get back
That's
to us.
a huge step in the right direction.
Yeah.
Make your life easier.
This is early on in the process, and it was a complaint-based inspection. And while we addressed the issue of the complaint, we also found several violations of the ordinance. We gave it to the grow manager. He wrote it down. He dictated back to us. So there was no misunderstanding of what needed to be corrected. and was talking to Mr. Stapleton on the phone at the time.
I think where I have a problem with that is that the information's being given to a manager, not the owner.
Absolutely.
The manager is, okay, I'm repeating to the owner who's on the phone, flipping out, going, oh my God, not getting it all down. I mean, we see how Mr. Stapleton reacts to stress. He's like, so I could see him being on the phone, not being able to write everything down, and the manager not relaying it accurately when he comes back to try and deal with things. And I think that we owed a responsibility to, whether it be the owner, the applicant, I think the registered people that are the responsible parties need to be the notified party, not just a manager. And so I have an issue with that. It's really hard for me to comprehend how to fix a violation notice without something in writing. I mean, I know you're verbally doing it, but not verbally to the person that's responsible party.
Well, I just assume if they trust to put them in charge of overseeing the operation, that they would trust them to relay any information.
Yeah, maybe, but they're not the ones that are going to pay the fines.
That's true.
I mean, if I'm going to pay a fine, I'm going to be talking to you directly. And I could see where he made every effort to talk to the planning department and say, how do I fix this? And the complaint that you went out there for, I mean, he just got lucky. He got his inspection earlier than most. That's kind of cool. So it's good that the neighbor complained. You got ahead of the ball.
For the record, I don't know who complained. We don't give out that information.
Yeah, it doesn't matter to me. That's not my business. Anyway, I'm so glad to hear that there is a process where people are going to be notified with duplicates, because I think that was a missing link that was really, really important. Thank you for getting that in place. And I think the only other question, so when you went out the second time, you still felt that fencing was not secure enough?
Yes.
Did you see cement pillars?
I don't recall seeing that.
Okay.
I don't know if there are photographs that have them in there. I do not recall
when you talk about
that.
secure fencing, if they're rolling it open during their workday, they're on site, they're working the area, they've got it secured within themselves, a rollback fence would not ever be considered acceptable?
It would if he could have shown us how he secured it, which he could not.
Okay.
So he couldn't demonstrate proper security. He couldn't roll it down and say, here's the lock, here's how we secure it. It wasn't there.
Okay, and that was the manager?
Yes.
Okay. And then the other thing that wasn't fixed. Okay, and we already went over the canopy area, and so that the measurements on the canopy, I understand what you guys are doing with that. That's different. Okay, and then you had down that it was not mixed. Were you ever notified?
Oh, yes, that's another thing. Thank you, Madam Chair. Both inspections, they had the outdoor registration only, and we were never notified that it was changed to mixed light.
That's would have been my question, is that it sounds like in September they were allowed to go to the mixed, but you were never notified of that. So.
Correct. I think he said October was the date he changed it. It was September 7th. Oh, okay. Thank you. Okay.
Then on the fencing issue, other than the openings for gates, was the fencing sufficient?
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay. Thank you, Sabrina.
Thank
Did
you.
anybody else have any? Okay, Kelly, Commissioner Wooster.
Yes. We have this cannabis cultivation site inspection report of August 1, and it has, under action items, gave a list of corrections to grow manager, including fencing, canopy size, use of mixed light when registered as outdoors, checking on if permit required for large hoop house. Was there anything else given verbally to the manager on August 1 that they needed to correct?
I believe that the representative from Environmental Health had a couple of items for him, which would be the dirt and the septic, the cover for the septic. That wasn't our issue, that was his.
Okay, there's nothing there about posting then? And we're not notified
That's
about-
correct, yes. That is missing from that list.
I'm sorry, I didn't hear you. Was posting part of it, was no posting or improper posting part of the corrections given to the manager on August 1?
If it's not written down on our inspection report, I wouldn't be comfortable saying that it was.
Okay, thank you. Now, on this same report, there's a number of drawings here, mixed light drawing, 15 feet by 30 feet, and then there's another area, 125 feet by 24 feet, and it goes on. Now, if I were to multiply all these out, would that give me what code compliance figured out was the gross canopy area?
Yes.
And presumably that's going to add up to 23,654?
Correct.
And those measurements were actual physical measurements done with a roller?
Yep.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. Any other questions?
Yes, following up on that thought, the sketch that he was just pointing out shows hoop house, 79 feet by 30 feet, exterior, interior, actual canopy.
That would have
What
been
do those numbers actually represent?
the exterior of the hoop house. That's,
So it wouldn't account for the space from the outer edge to the real edge of the plants?
it really depends on the hoop house, how much space is in between the exterior and the plants.
One other question on this. Is this your printing and writing on that form?
Like I said, this isn't my case. This is Officer Davis's case, so
All right.
it's more than likely hers.
One item, it shows checking on if permit required for the large hoop house. So were you aware at that point that even she didn't know the rules about the hoop house?
Yes.
Okay.
We were in the middle of figuring all that out at that time.
And then it was the 1st of October, I've heard, is when it finally got
I believe so.
decided on.
But that aside, we
One last
knew that they
question.
were mixed light.
Sorry. Gave a list of corrections to grow manager. We've talked about this several times. That was verbal.
We had him write it down. We watched him write it down. We had him dictate back what he wrote down to make sure there was no questions. And then we wrote down what we told him.
And in that, did you say we have a grow of 23,654?
I don't recall. I'm sorry.
Can you help me out with what appears to be the discrepancy between the September 8th, 2016 email from Gina Cathan to Greg Stapleton, where she says there's no mention of a sign in the memo, just the 240 square feet overage of cultivation, then it goes on. And what I see on the initial inspection report that has it being 1,654 square feet over.
Yeah, I'm not sure about that. I don't know where that figure came from, the 200.
240.
I don't know where that came from.
Okay?
Thank you.
Thank you, and thank you for clearing all that up. I really appreciate it. We're still in public comment.
We will have a chance for him.
He is going to get a rebuttal.
Yes.
Right.
My Valley, Colleen Platt with My Valley Springs. I don't usually comment on these because they're pretty complicated, but in this one, it seems clear that the applicant has done their best with the information that they had, that they weren't aware of or weren't being given written lists of the violations. Even though, this is third hand that he was hearing that. It was given to somebody who wrote it down, who was given to him who wrote it down. So you're not given a real written list. So I think that's a very serious problem. And it appears that he did his best efforts. He made valid efforts and attempted to comply with everything he understood was a violation. And that there's a lot of things that are still not clear in the instructions and the greenhouses and things like that. So I just, please give them some understanding about the situation here. Thank you.
Thank you, Colleen. Yes, please, thank you.
Would I be allowed to read a letter from a neighbor of his, which was...
You got 5
here?
minutes.
You got it. Would you guys like a copy of it?
As long as it pertains to the agenda item, you can do that. Sure.
This letter is from a neighbor of Greg's. It says, I am Jay Smith, District 2. This is from Scott Smith, District 2. My name is Scott Smith, and I am a registered grower in Calaveras. I know Greg Stapleton very well. He is one of the most giving and kinder people you have ever met. He is very well respected and highly regarded in the growers community on a grassroots level. He has taught me personally how to be a more responsible grower and has kept me up to date with the new technology and organic solutions. At time, we hear from the community at the board meetings alleged bad elements out there in Calaveras. Greg is not one of them. He has tried his best to comply, learn the law, and teach others how to be compliant with all the new regulations that have come to play. Greg's property was severely damaged during the fire. Not only did he have his own mess to deal with, he helped all his friends, colleagues, neighbors in the aftermath. He was in the process of rebuilding and needed a little bit more time. Please consider Greg for another chance to make his wrongs right. He deserves it more than most. He is a positive role model, and we need more people like him and not less. And I'd just like to end on saying I have sat in almost every appeal this whole entire year, and I do know Greg. But this is the one appeal that really should be given credit. He has done everything, it sounds like, to comply, and more than everything, that everybody knew what to do. And it's a huge gray mess. Everybody's trying to get through it, and this is definitely not a case of black and white. This guy has tried. Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
My name is Richard Ernster. I'm a property owner that adjoins Greg's property. I've never been to his grow site, so I can't really talk about anything about that. But I'd like to agree, in essence, with everything this lady said, and that Greg has been a good neighbor to us.
Thank you.
I'm George Fry. I live here in town. I worked for the planning department for 10 years. I'm very impressed with this couple here and their presentation today, and I think that they have done everything they could possibly do given the circumstances that they have been through. It's unfortunate that they didn't get written report from the second inspection. Another thing I think that could be done in the future with people who are given a denial is that the denial when there is going to be, they call for a reinspection, that they be given a date and not a next day date, a reasonable period of time, a week, and I think that's reasonable. And for the reinspection, I'm really impressed with this young couple. I sense their sincerity. They struggle like a lot of people today, and I know that's really not germane to the issue here, but I think they deserve consideration to finish up what they need to finish up and be on their way.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Is there anybody else that would like to speak? Okay. So. Okay. Mr. Stapleton, would you like to do your rebuttal now?
He's so jumping out of that seat.
All right. I'm
Okay,
Greg.
so let me just make
Greg
sure we know
Stapleton.
what we're doing here. You don't get to present a whole new case. You get to rebuttal anything that was said and explain
Okay.
what you believe is to be
I
the
would
truth.
kindly like to do that.
Okay.
I am Greg Stapleton. I'd like to say, like what Sabrina was talking about. So the first day when they arrived at my property, I had a locked gate, which, you know, went down. They were let in, full access, full welcome. My property poses no danger to anybody. On the second inspection, they arrived, and I promise you 1,000%, if I have to, I'll fly the guy back out here to have him come testify to this. They did not speak to him, period, 100%. He called me. He was down watering at the very bottom. He saw them doing their thing. They only walked to the top. They walked to about right to that point. He was down lower on the bottom side watering at that point. He saw them. He called me. He said they didn't look too happy and they already left. I was like, what do you mean they didn't? Like, they already left. So if she's saying that nobody got the chance to show them how a lock worked and they didn't even talk to him, period, then how in the hell is it? Sorry, that's loud. How is he supposed to present them a lock when they didn't even speak to him on the second time? And I'd love to see proof of that. I'd love to see proof of any of these things. She said that they wrote down things for him to do, right? So
No.
they said on that day that they wrote down some things?
No.
Oh.
She said they had him write things down on the first visit.
But she said also, I believe,
She had him write them down.
And I think she also said that they had wrote the same things down also. I believe that's. Yeah,
Well,
for their use.
the list that you read off and the list that's on here and that she spoke to are identical. So you were given the information and those were
Right.
the items you were working on correction.
Right.
I don't think there's a discrepancy there.
Okay. Then I'll just argue the second visit then. And, that's just pretty much where it is. They didn't give nobody the time of day to come up and, wonder how these gates even worked. You know what I mean? Yeah, we had locks, for sure, Were they on there? No. That's about all I have to say about that. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. So we're going to bring it back. You guys are okay with just finishing this one up? Yes. Okay. So we're going to bring it back to the commission and close the public comment and let the commissioners discuss.
I'm curious as to what the planning department's current position is after hearing all this evidence.
I think that I don't want to bias the commission with, our opinion based on what we've heard. This is your chance to, hear the testimony from the information that we had at the time that it was presented to us from code compliance, and we denied the application in early October. Our position was based on the information we had at that time. We denied the application. This is their opportunity to present their case to you to override or uphold our action.
I'd like to say that one of the things that is bothering me the most right now is what he just said. They're supposed to have fencing. It's supposed to be able to be locked. He just stated that code compliance went to the property, got on there with easy access, and the gentleman that was working the property was down below watering. So basically, in my opinion, what you're saying is anybody could go up on that property at that point, and that is bothering me. They were there long enough to inspect it and leave, and he never spoke to them. That's an issue. That was on it's one of the things on the thing. No proper fencing.
I wish I had my calculator.
Okay. Well, if we're...
Because if I'm looking at this inspection report, trying to figure out what all this adds up to. You better run it. She's got one. What happens when you add all these up?
While he's doing that, which is a great public service, what,
I have
can
one.
I ask the planning department, where this 200 and whatever square feet number came from, instead of the 1,654 square feet excess?
I believe that came from a memo from the sheriff's office, from the deputies that were on site at that inspection. That's not what we based our denial on code compliance, so that wasn't included in any of the information. That memo mostly centered on the lack of erosion controls and electrical cords and things of that nature, and since that wasn't part of our denial, that was not included in the...
But the square footage definitely was.
Correct, which was part of code, which is why all I was centered on was the code report.
So you're saying that the sheriffs measured it and they found only a 240-foot discrepancy?
Let's see. I don't
Square
know
feet?
if I even have that memo in my file here. Let me see.
But it was that 254 or whatever it was square foot that was presented to the applicant as what he needed to deal with.
I don't know which number was told the applicant.
I'm looking at these.
As has been said, we don't have a written down record of that, but I do know the code compliance checklist does say 23,654. So that's the number that I went off of.
So while you guys are looking through your paperwork, I would just like to go down the list of notes that I've made, and I want to start out with on the fencing. I believe that rolling a fence back while you're working is not an issue, if it can be rolled back and locked during hours when nobody's on the property. As far as code compliance coming on the property and it being unsecure and them being able to just walk in and then within a couple of minutes leave, they saw them. There was somebody there working that day, seeing them on the property. If it was a child, I would, in my heart, believe that manager would have ran up and said, you don't go inside that gate. So I'm not having an issue on the fencing. I believe that every effort has been made to correct that fencing. Could it be better? Maybe. On notification and corrections, we've been dealing with this now for how many months in the appeal process, and we have seen all kinds of cases, and we have seen cases come before us where the pictures really are not the property that they're being visited, or that are, there have been some really bad cases brought to us that we just absolutely have to stand our ground on the code, on the urgency ordinance, and say, no, that's not acceptable. We're all in a learning process. Our county has been inundated with a lot of work. Every department in this county has overload, has had to hire more employees, train employees. Everybody's learning this urgency ordinance. Everybody has been given extra duties, more workload, and it's been tough. And there is a process that we are adjusting and making better. This is probably the first code compliance case where there's been a first inspection and a second inspection, and we're learning about that side of it. I think that previous notification was not adequate. I struggle with that. I believe going forward, it's been perfected, and it will be much, much better. And I would even love to see our code compliance taking photos when they find the problem, and then take another photo when they go back. And that way, it's brought to us to uphold the code compliance and say, okay, they've been properly notified, they were given 10 days. I don't believe it's a 24-hour thing anymore. I think that, or is it working on 10 days, I think. So 10-day notification is being given. I think that this system is getting better and better as we keep moving forward. I'm probably shocking a lot of people because I've been the naysayer through all this. I think I put fixed. So cap 7I states application pending certificate. I believe that was fixed. I don't think the planning department, I think there was a lack of information being processed through to you or out in the field, or you weren't getting the photos when the final determinations were coming down, because I'm really struggling with this one. It's the first one I've struggled with. Nobody has got I'm going to clear my vote on this one. I'm still going to listen to my other commissioners because they may come up with something that I've missed. On 1795165F, the registrant has an outdoor license. It's already been proven here today that it's not an outdoor license. It is a mixed-use license. Code compliance wasn't aware of it. Planning department wasn't aware of it sitting here, so I think that was a miscommunication. The process over the hoop houses, we've heard this multiple times. Everybody was calling the planning department. Can we do this hoop house? Well, we don't know yet. In the building department, no, we don't know yet. So that was an issue that has been outstanding for a very long time, going through some resolve. I think that they now have got that fixed. Now there's a building permit fee to pay for the hoop house. I think where we ran into some issues is where people were hooking up electricity and plumbing to those hoop houses. Don't stand before me and tell me it's a temporary structure, but by golly, I've got power and water going to it. So that is an issue. But we didn't have a process for getting it through. We do now. So I think as we move forward, I think we're going to see a lot more perfections go into place, and we're going to absolutely be able to say up or down whether it went through. Previous to this, I think there was a lot of mixed information. I find it very hard to judge somebody on information that's mixed up or not communicated properly. I'm going to step down and let my other commissioners speak. I know that Kelly is dealing with the canopy. He did show us photos of removing large plants from the canopy area. How do you justify making your canopy smaller whenever this is the grow area, but in order to comply with my 22,000 square feet, my canopy is what's getting measured, not my plants within? So the only way for him to downsize his canopy was to cut plants out. He showed us evidence in his photos that he attempted to reduce that canopy. But as a whole, we're measuring that entire canopy area. I don't know what you expect somebody to do to downsize their canopy if they're eradicating plants. That's downsizing the canopy area. Maybe it needs to be a bordered area, I don't know, so that you can resubmit and say, okay, I'm not going to grow over here anymore. But at the time this garden was growing, that was his only options. Take out the line of plants behind the greenhouse, cut down some large plants to try and to take down the canopy size. I think he tried to comply with that. I can see where we're getting different measurements on the canopy, because where does it start and where does it go? And you have a letter that I should see?
Yeah, so this is, I found the memo from the sheriff's office. It states that they used a laser measuring device and calculated it to be 22,240 square feet.
And 40 square feet.
Yeah, so that's where the true 40.
So between code compliance measurements, which I believe were most accurate as well, and the time that the sheriff went, September 27th? Okay, because I'm going to pass that down. On August 11th, we have 1,000-foot difference square footage between the sheriff's department and you. Now, obviously, that's... I probably should have read that. Why did the sheriff's department go measure it?
I don't know.
Why was the sheriff's department there?
They accompany us for security purposes.
And it was with you, and their measurements, do they measure at the same time you measure?
They were at that time.
They were? Okay.
They were.
Well, I think if you're measuring canopy area and you're going around the entire grow area still, that it's going to measure out probably your 23,000 square feet. But I think he made the efforts to reduce the canopy, but you're still taking the string and going around that same canopy area because we don't count in between the rows. It doesn't matter if you space them out 10 feet apart. It's still canopy. So
Okay.
those are my thoughts.
This is with the addition and when you add up the numbers that are on the inspection report of August 1, showing the various areas, it does come up to the 23,654 square feet. And the ordinance does define total canopy area as the gross area of cannabis planting covered by the canopy of all marijuana to be cultivated on the parcel when the marijuana plants reach their maximum canopy size, including the space between the plants within a single fenced or enclosed area. So we do have in the sheriff's memo of 8/11, it says, my partner and I calculated the grow to be 22,240 square feet using a laser measuring device. I believe this number to be greater as we did not measure a fair amount of space between some rows. So that may explain the discrepancy. And given the language of the ordinance, it looks like the 23,654 would be the figure that's most consistent with the ordinance. Having said that, if you read this ordinance literally, you'd have to move your fence.
Yep.
Or cut down part of your greenhouse, and that would be kind of ridiculous, I think. So I think that if somebody's faced with this reduction scenario, and they did it on the outside of the perimeter of the grow, they should be entitled to the benefit of that reduction, particularly since the ordinance only gives them 24 hours to reduce the canopy area. They have to reduce it within 24 hours of receiving the registration or of notification by an enforcement official. And so you're not going to move a fence in 24 hours. So, should I keep going on what I think on the whole thing?
Yes.
Okay. On the list of corrections, I concur with what's been said. That should be in writing. There should be a copy. We should all know what it was. It should be done in a way that the registrant and the landowner get it. This cannabis cultivation site inspection report of August 1 has in it only fencing, canopy size, and use of mixed light when registered as outdoor. We can forget the latter because they were mixed light as of September 7th. That then leaves, in terms of the list of corrections, the fencing and the canopy size. There's nothing in here about the trailers or anything else. And it does say checking on if permit required for large hoop house. That implies to me that what was told to the grow manager was not, you have to get a permit. It would have been, we're checking on it, if anything was said. And so I'm having trouble upholding the denial on the basis of the unpermitted hoop house. And on the canopy size, I think there is sufficient confusion about what this applicant was told. And given that, and it seems to me correct notification is absolutely necessary, or this system doesn't work. And I think there's enough confusion given the email that said the sheriff's found only 240 over his efforts to reduce commensurate with that. that I'm having trouble upholding this denial on the basis of the canopy, total canopy size. On the fencing, seems to me that it's now securable. I think it was securable from what the applicant has told us with the rollback gates, and they had the locks. So I have trouble with that one too. The other permitted trailers, I think, have been sufficiently explained by the applicant, and it was not part of the list of corrections to begin with. The posting, I think, has been adequately covered, and that was not on the list of corrections either. So he had no way of knowing that he had to do something else on the posting. So that's where I'm at.
I think the biggest problem here is what the action items are, because although it was stated that there was a list given to him, it doesn't show here everything that was given to him. So I agree that there's an issue with this. I think that there's an issue with the fencing. I think that if there's somebody out there on the property, it should be secured, whether they're on there or not, for safety reasons, so nobody else could get on the property. I also have an issue with the trailers, but the trailers are not listed as an action, although it was verbally told to them. Even in the pictures that they show, if you go back to the trailers, they're saying they're not using them. On that picture right there, go back. Right there where it says they're not using the trailer, that trailer is hooked up. It's plugged in and there's water to it. They're saying they're not using it, but you can tell on the picture, it's hooked up. So I have an issue with that. So there's a couple of issues I have because it's not written on the action items, I guess. So that's mine.
I kind of concur with everything that's been said so far. I believe we have a case of communication problems, and I think they've been solved. At least the form that's now in existence hopefully is something as detailed and perhaps more detailed than the internal form, which I'm not quite sure why we didn't have one from the September inspection, but whatever. It is true that this form, the August 1 form, only shows the, is there one?
That's what,
I'm not sure when it
Oh, it's
popped
not
up.
in color, that's,
yeah, it's just not in color.
I apologize. But looking at the emails from Gina, it looks like Greg, or Mr. Stapleton, thought there was a 240 square foot error, and much of this stuff just wasn't enough of a problem, as far as I can tell, for him to even realize it was going to be denied at that point. I'm still not clear on what happened after the September 27th date, and whether, although there's a later email, I think well, there is one from September 28th. But I'm not quite sure Mr. Stapleton really followed up as well as he could have after the 27th to say, okay, now the fence really is completed. I've got the gate in. Here's the locks. Here's my measurements on the details of the canopy. If you look at this internal calculations you can figure out that it shows 23,654. He didn't know that apparently, but he could have, if he had known those details, he could have said, yeah, here's my measurements. Let's figure out who's right. Maybe ask for a third. I know that's probably burdening the staff ridiculously, but this looks like the one case I wouldn't want to start off my career on the Planning Commission with. But
I think with that, I just need to add one little bit of clarification. He, in fact, did request a third inspection, and he was denied. There were actually a lot of people that haven't gotten a first inspection, but he did request a third inspection.
That's all I have.
Well, I'm not going to belabor the points. I think Kelly did a great job of summarizing the various issues, and the other commissioners have also put it through. And I think the big picture here is that the urgency ordinance starts off with the great concerns that the county has for irresponsible cannabis growing that has been happening in the county. And what we need, I can draw from these findings and the regulation that comes with the urgency ordinance, is that we need people who are going to be conscientious about this and are going to try and work with the system and make it work so that the county can regulate these. Now, lots of bumps in the road, and everybody obviously is just going through a learning process, including me. But I really think that we have here somebody who was trying to make it work. Obviously, if he were irresponsible, what I couldn't understand when I was looking at these pictures in my packet was, well, gee, if he didn't correct why did he put in so much work? Why did he put in so much expense and stuff on the fencing and that sort of thing? And I think he's provided the explanations as to what he was trying to do at the time as he could do it. And it's clearly not a grower that's a cut and run, literally cut and run person where they're going to just try and keep things going until they can harvest the harvest and make their money and leave the county. I think we have a person here who's trying to make it work. I think that the county is trying to make it work also. And I will stop right now, but I think that's this is a good example of somebody who's trying to get things right.
Okay, so I would like to entertain a motion.
We're not concerned that it appears that there is a desire to grant the appeal based on the comments made by the Commission, but we don't have a resolution that would support that action. If it is the desire to grant the appeal, then I would recommend that you carry this to the end of the Planning Commission agenda, but go to lunch, come back, do the
They could reconvene as a planning commission.
We could reconvene as a planning commission after lunch. I'll work on a revised resolution for you if you will sort of declare your intent that that's what you intend to do.
So why don't I call the commissioners and see what they're going to do?
And then continue this to after lunch.
So if we could just find out if you're going to uphold the denial or if you're going to uphold for the appellant. It would.
I would vote to grant the appeal.
Okay. I agree. Okay.
Yes, same.
I do too.
Okay.
On second thought.
I want my chair back. Do you know this is the first time this has happened sitting here? Okay, hey, you guys, let's go to lunch. Be back at 2 o'clock.
I think this